Greetings, brothers and sisters. When someone asks Aunt Linda why she never got married, that is a wonderful freaking meme. Today is Thursday, January 15th. I fucked up and put a video that was supposed to go up tomorrow morning on Friday up this morning. So I made it in advance, and, I just, once in a while, I'm having my senior moments. And so, I used to have some senior moments my whole life because once in a while I just forgetful or slob, do these things. But now they're more available. So this video is going up Saturday morning, and then I don't even know what. So there's like a long period between, to today and then all day Friday, the rest of the day today, Thursday, and then all day Friday, and then Saturday morning. So this video, these videos should have went back to back because I believe I'll be featuring Candace Owens saying Charlie Kirk's a time traveler. Somebody said, I think I got a few comments and a few messages about that. She had talked about this bullshit in a previous video of hers. And I was going to maybe add it to the video because, the last video was Charlie Kirk is the title of the video. The truth is Charlie Kirk is a shekel-taking, genocide-enabling Judas piece of shit, Candace and Erika too. And I thought maybe I'd add it to that, and I don't really want to cover Candace like I've talked about over and over again. She's just so fucking annoying. So this was a good way to start off with this meme because he's, fabulous. All right, so let's get to the other stuff here, and then we'll eventually make it over to Candace. Okay, so this is Kyle Dunnigan, and he is, probably the best comedian out there who does, impressions and, does whatever you would call it, sort of like Saturday Night Live kind of stuff. So he used to do this thing with Sylvester Stallone, and he used to feature Kirk Metzger as someone he called Kerp. It was pretty funny. My wife and I used to watch it regularly. And this beginning I thought was interesting.
Good evening and welcome to At Home with Sly Stallone, starring me, Sylvester Stallone. And that's it, all right? There's no Kerp, so I don't want to see in the comments. Who's Kerp? Kerp here, Kerp. There's no Kerp, all right? Listen, he was stolen from us. You understand? By this man.
So, Kirk Metzger is now on Jimmy Dore. And so, he's a comedian. I guess Jimmy Dore's supposed to be a comedian as well.
His name is Jimmy Dore, and he is our enemy. All right? I don't want to hear no more business about no more Kerp. All right? We got to move on. All of our Kerps were stolen, actually. Remember this Kerp? He was also stolen by The Majority Report, which is a left-wing extreme podcast. This one's a right-wing extreme podcast. Conspiracy? I don't know. Why? Why don't we have Kerps?
Why don't you have Kerps?
Is Stallone a big jerk to work with? This is our producer. Am I a jerk to work with?
No, you're great to work with.
Shut up. Here's a real reason.
He's just got great bits.
Is this YouTube's fault? Look at this. Look at that. $44. 120,000 views. Thanks, YouTube.
So I wanted to show you this. So, this guy, he's not. Once in a while, he drops something like nothing like he's not. I don't think a truther, but he knows about truther narratives. But he does things that he's a left wing Hollywood comedian who would criticize the left wing and a lot of the things whatever it was under Joe Biden. He did a savage impression of Joe Biden and stuff, and so he came out wearing the diaper with Joe Biden. These things, a lot of guys have seen this guy. And his stuff is pretty raw, like Um, you know, like in terms of vulgarity and things. But like this is just a non-truther getting punished by YouTube's algorithms because he has, I mean, he gets a lot of views on his videos, and some of the videos were, um, quite extraordinary, like just very popular stuff. And for him to get only $44 at 120,000 views, it shows you how bad the algorithms are. But what's interesting is YouTube is now opened up again. You pretty much can say anything. Like it's just the criticism of Israel. I don't even know about the vaccine stuff, but I'm pretty sure they just start community guidelines. Anything under Trump, they're just letting loose. There's been no pressure to censor them, at least for now, from the Trump administration. I don't think these YouTubers appear on Trump's radar like they did with the people that handled Joe Biden. And so YouTube should actually start monetizing his videos. Like my videos are making a little bit more money, and I'm making more money than he is. As a, certainly my channel has been shadow banned, but not like this bad, where they're either running no ads or the ads are just so bad. But then this one as well.
Yay! $44. Look at this one. Look at this one, Scaloni. It's $29. That's got to be 1,000 views, right? $29. 168,000. Yay! All right. Listen.
And then he goes here and he brings in a Jimmy Dore.
Like free curb for this guy. I think he's miserable and misses us. Look at this. Just look at this for 2 seconds. Hold on 1 second. This is a live show, you guys.
The other dimension that is actually, like the way I try to describe it to people is that we're all just a part of a consciousness, whatever it is. And there's no separation. And that consciousness, let's say it's an ocean.
Look how miserable he is.
Well, the part that we see is a wave. The part of the consciousness ocean that we see is just a wave. And I can surf that wave. I can't control the wave. I can't control the ocean. All I can do is try my best to surf that wave of consciousness.
This is making me sick. Anyway, feel free to go there and say hashtag free curb. Sure, he's miserable. All right, I'm shot out of a cannon.
All right, hashtag free curb. And also Candace owns full of shit. Hashtag. So that's Kyle Dunnigan. So I turned this on maybe yesterday for lunch. I don't know when this was on. It's an MS Now video, and I was flipping through the channels, and this guy was from Greenland. I think he's the leader of Greenland. We'll see in a moment. And he said this thing, you can't just send us an email and announce Greenland is American, right? He said those words as being a leader of Greenland. And that's how it went down with Trump administration. And I switched the channel, which meant I couldn't record it, right? And I was like, oh my God, that was a great line. And then this video popped up for MS Now later, which was great because I wanted to, I was hoping they would put it up on YouTube. And so this guy gives a great interview here.
Mr. Yarlov, a member of Danish Parliament. Mr. Yarlov, thank you for being here. And I wonder what your
He's a member of their parliament.
read is on today's meeting and the message that came from President Trump just before it.
Thanks for having me on the show. Of course, I haven't heard from the meeting yet, so I don't know what they have discussed and what came out of the meeting.
Oh, he's a part of Danish parliament, not Greenland.
But we're hoping for a constructive dialogue about what the USA needs in Greenland that they don't already have, with a full military access and the access to extract mining that is already there. Because we'd be more than happy to assist them and open the door even more for them if there's anything concrete that they can point to that they need. So that's where.
So they're basically giving Trump, it's got full military access. There's American bases there, number one, and number two, they have minerals and shit. Like, so they just probably want a piece of it. Whatever American company goes in there and extracts rare earth minerals and all the rest of it. It's a very cold place, right? There was Iceland is, I did a report. I had, when I was a kid, I chose Iceland, right? Well, I was assigned it or whatever. And Iceland is a very interesting place because they have these, the geysers, this hot water steam, comes up. They got hot water, they got all these hot springs in a cold place, and it's a lot warmer. They have geothermal energy. They have an energy source. It's a small country with, and it's a place where you can vacation, right? There was a famous chess match there with Bobby Fischer. And I used to have a viewer from Iceland and who would comment regularly. So it's an interesting country. They named it Iceland because it was it was better place. And they named Greenland because they wanted people to go there. But Greenland only gets like a growing season of like 2 months. And, it's very strapped for resources. People had a hard time living there, before modern day technology or whatever it is, right? It's it's basically an Arctic place. But they're willing to give America everything, access to everything. There's no reason for America to own Greenland. But Trump doesn't give a shit, right?
We're hoping, but of course, as you also said, we have to make it very, very clear that we cannot hand over the sovereignty. We're not going to sell people and land to the Americans. The Greenlanders have made it crystal clear that they don't want to become Americans, don't want to be owned or governed by the Americans. And you have to...
This is the summer. This is what Greenland looks like in the summer.
Respect that, and you have to respect treaties, international borders, and
hopefully... Fuck that shit. Trump don't just respect that shit. Come on, bro.
Not create a situation where we have a confrontation that's even worse than the verbal one we've already had.
You depend heavily, obviously, on Danish support for the economy in Greenland. I just want to be clear. It sounds like you're saying there is no dollar amount in the world that the U.S. could offer that would change the outlook of the people of Greenland.
Correct. Greenland is not for sale regardless of the price. And people don't want to sell their country. I mean, I don't know...
They don't want to sell their country,
Why the idea has been brought into some people's heads that if they just raise the price, then people will sell their country. I don't think a lot of Americans would sell their country, and people in Greenland and Denmark are no different. We value our country. Greenlanders value Greenland. Greenland should be...
This is July in Greenland.
...be run by the Greenlanders. It should not be run by the Americans. And they have made it crystal clear that they want to stay with Denmark. They don't have a desire to become Americans in any way.
When you have conversations about Donald Trump, can
Holy
you
shit, look at that.
Share what the view is of him there?
I was going to say I'd rather not, because people are quite angry.
They don't like Trump? Everyone likes Trump. What are you guys, fucking communists?
About this, because, we have always been an extremely loyal ally to the Americans. People from other countries will criticize us for having been too loyal to the Americans, having participated in their wars, having led. People in the Danish army have died in quite large numbers in Afghanistan where we have no interests. And in the 250 years of American history, Denmark has not done anything hostile to the Americans. So we would not expect this, and we think...
So in the Sajmark system of meditation I do, there is a lot of Danish people. The second master, Babaji, loved Denmark, and he went there. He traveled. He was like in his 70s. He's from rural India, and he traveled to Europe, and he always went to Denmark. They have an ashram there, the best ashram in Europe. Beautiful place near Copenhagen. And I know, even now I probably have 15 Danish friends or something like that from Sajmark. And I, talk to these people. Some of them I got quite close to in my trips to India. There was always Danish people there. There was more Danish people. It's like the number one European practitioner of the meditations. And some of the people were brought up to like a higher level. One guy wrote a couple of books. He was like a guy who used drugs. And, you're not supposed to do that with the meditation. And he wrote a couple of books that were like more, kind of a little bit cynical. He wrote a couple of good books. about the system, about his time with Babaji, the second master. And so I know a lot about Denmark, and really nice people. Like, of all the Europeans, they're the easiest to get along with. You know, there's very little drama. They're kind of innocent. You know, they're vicious Vikings. I mean, very tall people. This one guy, is also, his name is also Paul, and he's an old hippie, right? And he went to India, and you know, the place where Babaji lived was like in the Shah Jahanpur. It's like this small town. You know, there's some criminal activity, rural town. And India's like, when you go there, it's like going to a foreign country, especially back then. So he went to India in like the 70s. And Babaji had a house. His dad used to be a lawyer, and he was a clerk. And he inherited this house that had a little bit of a courtyard, and, you know, it was a kind of a bigger house in the city. And the train used to get into Shah Jahanpur at like 2 a.m. So you had these people going to India, and they would, you know, there wasn't much of an organization. And they get off the train, you know, never been to India and maybe not knowing that much about the system. And they would, you know, be wandering the streets looking for Babaji's house, right? And there was, you know, some criminal activity. They called them dacoits, you know, robbers, thieves. And this one guy, he got off the train. He must have got off. There must have been a different, you know, he was there during the day. And he's wandering the streets looking for Babaji's house. And these, like, 3 very tall, supermodel-looking, you know, women with blonde hair in a place where, you know, Babaji there was like a lot of small Indian people. And he goes, oh, that must be it, right? he goes into the house. And so, you know, because there's all these Danish people there. So they're always been associated with the meditation. And of all the people in Europe, like, they're just the best. You know, they're just always, like, friendly and, you know, very little drama. And so, you know, like, I would say that if you can't get along with the Danish, you pretty much can't get along with anybody, right? And Trump's managed to, like, fuck these guys over because, you know, he's just Trump.
Yeah, disappointing is not a strong enough word for how people feel at the moment, because this is a big threat to our country, the worst threat we've had. We haven't had anyone else try to take our territory since Second World War.
You know, these are countries with 10 million people, low crime, you know, I mean, they're small countries if you look at Europe. You know, all of Europe is like, I think about, you could fit 2 Europes in America or whatever it is. Like, Europe is, you know, and some of the countries are big. Like, I think Germany's big and some of these other countries, if you look at a map of Europe. And a lot of these places, there's very, you know, it's cold there, right? You know, it's, you know, substantially cold. And so it's like, you know, they have a different sort of orientation to life. And, you know, there's our older countries. And like before, these were Vikings, and the Vikings were brutal, but these people are just all kind of pacified and friendly now, and, you know.
So you have posted that any type of invasion by the U.S. would mean war. Do you have a plan, guarantees from NATO allies, a sense of what you'd actually be able to do if Trump were to take military action?
We know that the Americans can destroy us militarily, but you shouldn't expect that you can just send us an email and then announce that now Greenland is American. That's not going to happen. We will oppose.
That's just a great little bit here.
Can destroy us militarily, but you shouldn't expect that you can just send us an email and then announce that now Greenland is American. That's not going to happen. We will oppose it, of course, but we don't want to get into that kind of situation. I mean, the whole situation that we're in right now, where we're actually discussing the possibility of a war between Denmark and the United States, is so damaging to the entire Western alliance. And I don't know why you would want to do that, because everything in Greenland is available for the Americans. They can achieve everything they want just by, you know, picking up the phone, talking to us, and we will be happy to assist, and we'll be happy to keep the door open. We have kept Russia and China out. They're in no way about to take over Greenland. Absolutely not. They have no activity up there. They don't have any mining, consulates. They don't own anything. We have kept them out, and we will continue to do that as long as the Americans don't treat us as enemies.
Mr.
As
Erika,
long as the Americans don't treat us as enemies. What he's saying there is they'll bring Russia and China in if this becomes a war-like situation. This is so fucked. You know, we're on the verge of Iran war, which they might bomb Iran today. And this video might go up earlier, and they'll have to take Saturday off, right, instead of Friday, just because of, you know, the whole thing, right? You know, with Iran, like, you know, and Iran's a fucked up thing. He's, you know, in war with Venezuela and trying to own that country. I mean, I showed you that clip, I think, where he got pissed off because Exxon didn't want to, you know, they think the Venezuela is uninvestable because it's unstable. And that they'll put a bunch of money into the oil industry, and then in 2 years when the Democrats take over, or in 4 years when it's a Democratic president, then they'll change their whole policy towards Venezuela, and these oil companies will have to eat that, you know, their investment into the country. And Trump said, "Yeah, fuck you guys, get out of here. You're not a part of this thing." So, you know, Trump is all over the place. He's got the Epstein thing, and you know, just everything's a fucking mess with this guy. I mean, he's fighting too many wars. I mean, we're going to end up in World War III. No, he's just lost his shit, and there's nobody there. There's no adults in the room.
Love, what's the stress level, the tension level in Greenland right now?
It's extremely high. You know, that there's actual talks about invading their country. It's being repeated on international news.
All right, so you get the idea there. So you just can't send an email and say, "Hey, guess what? Greenland's ours." Trump's trying to take it over via email. Okay, so then another one from Dana Bash here.
We will move next week in the House Oversight Committee markup to hold former President Clinton in contempt of Congress.
Pretty big news from the Hill, but that's not what I find the most fascinating.
What's so fascinating, you ghoulish fucking Dana Bash? Look at what's going on with those fucking alien teeth here. You know, so you're so TikTok, Dana. You know, like this is their new thing. You know, this like these short videos where they show a little bit of thing here.
At this moment, it's how Bill and Hillary Clinton responded. Every person has to decide when they have seen or had enough and are ready to fight for this country, its principles, and its people, no matter the consequences.
Okay, so what does that even mean, right? Bill Clinton is, I mean, there's a picture of Bill Clinton in a blue dress on Jeffrey Epstein's wall, right? I mean, there was, you know, he was completely Epsteined as much as Trump was, right? And so, you know, what are you doing here? I mean, I know Trump is trying to deflect here, but Jesus Christ, you know, like, I'm talking about what Dana Bash is doing here. They're all Epsteined up, right?
For us, now is that time. That is the key premise of this really long letter.
It's a really long letter about Jeffrey Epstein when, you know, like there's nothing you could say because you were Epsteined.
They could have made it just about the testimony that the committee asked them to come and give, but they decided to go well beyond that.
Well, beyond that, you're so TikTok, Dana.
Intentionally so. Continue to abet the dismantling of America, and you will learn that it takes more than a wrecking ball to demolish what Americans have built over 250 years.
Oh, that's just so poetic for a guy who went to Epstein Island like 25 times or 50, 100.
They know that Democrats want to fight, and they know that they're now in a position to help lead that. This is still something.
Look at that. Look at that fucking ghoul right there. Holy shit, right? These motherfuckers.
That is unusual from a former president, to have this kind of pushback and to dive into the politics this way. It's kind of even Trumpian to say, okay, I'm going to take this on and I'm going to play.
So so they're trying to be TikTok, right? They're trying to, you know, have these short little videos because everyone knows that, like, the younger you get, the shorter your attention span. And put it up in the long format like you can watch on your phone. And, you know, TikTok format. And she did one video where she featured the dinosaur Elizabeth Warren. I'm going to do Candace Owens thing in a moment. With Elizabeth Warren, who's like, you know, I mean, she's in her 70s. And then she went with the Clintons, who are in their 80s, right? I mean, it is about Epstein, but Jesus Christ. Do you have something like, if you're going to go to this format, you're going to have to bring something more than this boring bullshit news. It's just it's your same old bullshit. And she's making it sound like, oh my God, this is so fascinating. Look, you guys, look what I've discovered. The Clintons' letter, about Epstein.
At your game, and how this is going to play out is going to be determined by how they set the tone in this really remarkable letter.
It's remarkable. It's so remarkable. So TikTok. I mean, this is how desperate scene. Okay, so here's the time traveler fucking bullshit. She talked about this before, and I'm going to make this as brief as possible. Some viewers mentioned it to me. I just talked about what a piece of shit Charlie Kirk was, and so, when the mainstream people, when the popular people, the people who are famous establishment people start getting into the truth community and then making short videos like Dana Bash, the thing has been wrecked by then, right? It's compromised. There's something that's new and it's grassroots and it's cool and it's like smart and it's, not controlled. And then, they come in, they just fucking, by the time they get to it, it's wrecked. The truth community, all these things, all these people like Tucker Carlson coming in, by the time these fucking people get to it, it's like way past jump the shark, right? And so, there's nothing here anymore. And people always gravitate to the conventional. People want something that's new and real and dynamic. But then when the people that they know and the people that they are brought to you by the system show up, the people who are here in the truth community or wherever it is, right? Whatever time period, wherever it is, immediately run to the fucking the devil they know, right? The devil they know, like. And so this is what's happened with, the truth community and Candace Owens coming into it with Alex Jones, all these people, right? The people who are, controlled. They're supposed to take something that's grassroots and then monetize it and corporatize it. And so this is where she's at.
It is an absolute fact that Charlie Kirk thought that he was a time traveler. He told me he was a time traveler repeatedly. I showed you guys that text message exchange. I said to him in response that I didn't feel the same way and that I thought I was from another planet, that I was an alien my entire life. Just do not get it here. This planet is ghetto. That's how I feel. I don't understand it. The rules don't make sense. I think that's also why I like cats so much. I feel that they can relate to that. They think humanity is ghetto. They don't want to be around us. They don't like us. They know it's ghetto. It is ghetto here, right?
Okay, so, souls are from different places. Like, in our different human beings, all they look alike and they're similar behaviors, and we all have our bodily needs. But there's quite a level of consciousness here, in terms of all these things. I don't want to put a whole video. I guess I'll copy this voiceover for a Journey series. But this idea. Well, first of all, if he was a time traveler, I'll come back to this whole thing.
Well, another bizarre fact is that back when Charlie and I were running around, we met in 2017, top of 2018. So I would say, obviously, Turning Point was an organization, but it wasn't the organization.
Okay, geez, I don't want to go too deep into this. If that's all the time traveler stuff, I have to search it out. Let me search that, and I'll come back, because I kind of want to put this just in a voiceover so I can put it in a jury series. Just do a summation of this whole thing. Let me see if there's anything else here. So I don't think she talks about Charlie Kirk being a time traveler anymore in this. She brings this guy out from Project Looking Glass, or this guy, Be Inspired, I don't know.
This. Are you familiar with the Mandela effect? Yeah. Of course. Millions of people remember certain events that never happened. And so how do you explain that? As we go through our conscious progression, as we raise consciousness, the way we perceive the world, and therefore all that will exist in our world, will morph to that new resonance as a sympathetic resonance. So certain aspects of the old world will just no longer exist. And so we can still have a phantom memory of those experiences, whether it's like Jiffy peanut butter or Luke, I am your father, which he never said that, right? All these things like that literally just like fall out of your new frequency. Because everything in your world around you, including time itself, is retrocausal. The world around you that is no longer fitting your frequency will disintegrate and dissolve.
Okay, so I'm not trying to start a world war in the comment section today, but Pikachu had black at the end of his tail. Obviously, I don't know when they hit delete on that button, but he definitely had black at the end of.
Okay, so Pikachu. You're going from Charlie Kirk time traveling to Pikachu.
Of his tail. Some of these things just don't make any sense to me. And it's just amazing that we just sort of accept it and we just keep moving on. And when you start asking questions, they try to paint you with, no, don't ask the questions. Just keep going on. Let's just pretend. Let's just pretend that, there was no cornucopia. Anyways, this brings us obviously to the CIA's project Looking Glass. Essentially, there were these whistleblowers, like I told you, in the military.
Right. So, I'll look one more time for time travel and stuff here, and then I want to get to a voiceover. I'll go with this for 2 more minutes, and then that's it. This is my time limit.
And within the CIA apparatus that came forward to reveal that the deep state had a technology, which
the fucking deep state
they stole, of course. Please do not miss the part that I keep explaining to you. These people are not smarter than you. They're just more evil. They steal, they plunder, and they steal things, and then they rewrite history and pretend that they were geniuses. Anyways, they have a knack for
That's what the fucking deep state. That's the deep state do. That's what the deep state do. That's how the deep state do.
They have a knack for theft, and this time, just like a lot of times before, they stole a device from the ancient Sumerian civilization that's located in modern day Iraq. Very advanced civilization. They're obsessed also with Egyptian civilization, as we discussed yesterday. The Satanists kind of taking and reintroducing these things. First, they keep them to themselves. They hoard these things, and then they kind of give us certain aspects of technology as time goes on. So they steal this piece of technology.
Jesus Christ.
And they incorporate it into a computer. And suddenly they're apparently able to predict future outcomes. Just imagine the deep state being able to look into a glass, so to speak. The Sumerian culture was known for their advancement in glass, and to see different outcomes.
I mean, what happens when the deep state can do state like that, right?
I mean, the amount of power that you would have, and then also fathom in your mind that the people that are Satanists have this power. Take a listen.
This is where things take a turn.
This is where they take a fucking turn. Be inspired.
According to Bill Wood, a former Navy SEAL with high-level clearance, the US military once had access to a device called Project Looking Glass.
Boom! Project Looking Glass.
Technology that could supposedly...
Like how you believe in this motherfucker, right? Like...
view potential future timelines.
The project was shut down because there was a problem when we approached 2012. The timelines converge on that point in time. When you know how string theory works and how the possibility of possibilities works and how making one choice over here doesn't necessarily mean that the other choice couldn't exist at the same time.
Okay, so, I'll explain this in a much more practical and spiritual way. Let me go to a voiceover. Okay, so I found the time traveler thing here, the second one here, and then I'll go to the voiceover. I've already started the voiceover and I came back because here.
Movie The Matrix, you should look into how even the script for The Matrix.
If that's the case, what else have we been shown without realizing it?
Okay, a lot to unpack there. First, I'm going to say, just regarding the movie The Matrix, you should look into how even the script for The Matrix was stolen, allegedly. But to bring this back to my earlier point about all of these things that are happening or have happened that are seemingly inexplicable, it just lives inside of me that Charlie Kirk knew he was going to die. How? How was he so certain that he was going to die young? How is that possible? How was he even able...
It's just crazy. Like, somebody could realize they're going to die young. Like, this never happened in the history of the world. He must be a time traveler.
to describe it as this tragic event? How did he know? How was he certain, by the way, as he said in those messages, that from the moment he signed onto the dotted line to begin Turning Point USA, he knew he was going to die. He knew his death was going to be related to Turning Point USA. That's not a coincidence.
It's not a coincidence. It's not. It's not. It's not at all. Not a coincidence. No, it's not a coincidence.
Okay? It is completely absurd to have people, well, I don't know, maybe just a coincidence. No, that's not a coincidence at all. Why did he know that I was going to defend him? Also, why did Charlie think he was a time traveler? He said, as I showed you in earlier messages, that he was a time traveler and he had to find me. Is that just something people are saying to their homies in text messages? And again, not anything that...
Yeah, well, I'm sure lots of fucking New Age people say shit like that all the time. And lots of crazy religious people say shit like that. Maybe not exact words, but something like that, right? People with a self of grandiose type of whatever it is, right?
I would have placed so much emphasis on back when he was saying it, but it came to fruition. The other parts, he did die young. Why did he think that him dying young was necessary in order to change things? He did die young. It is related to Turning Point USA.
Okay, so Charlie Kirk's movement was not legitimate, and I showed you this in my last video where I talked about how he was a shekel-taking, genocide promoting, something else piece of shit. I forgot the title. Because he was, right? In terms of the material world and his actions. But the bigger problem is Candace Owens is, was also a piece of shit in her way. And she's at least going after some level of truther stuff. Whereas his wife and Turning Point USA has gone backwards and they've lost their audience. And it's no longer, it's a shell of what it was. And it's not going to come back. The country is going to start turning on all these people who voted for Trump, not voted for Trump, promoted Trump, right? If you voted for Trump, that is whatever it is. It's like buying the lottery ticket. You're like, whatever. You went to the polls, you pulled a fucking lever, you pushed a button, and you voted for Trump with hopes that this Great America, Make America Great Again thing was real. Maybe you thought it was real, maybe you didn't. But you're accountable just like everybody else for a Biden was accountable for participating. But either way, they're going to push this thing through, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. But people who promoted this bullshit like it was real, you have no credibility because Trump was you could easily see what Trump was. I knew what Trump was when he was on The fucking Apprentice. Like it wasn't hard. And many people knew who Trump was, but then just went along with the whole bullshit. Let me go to the voiceover, which I was already 7 minutes into it before I came across this clip. So I addressed this clip about 7 minutes into the voiceover. Okay, so the first part about this, where she talks about being an alien and Charlie Kirk was a time traveler, she shared this before. And I said the same thing then. Well, he's the worst time traveler in history. Because if you were a time traveler, you'd go to the future and warn yourself and tell yourself to duck. Right? Like, you would avoid your assassination, right? If you were a time traveler, you wouldn't be assassinated at age 31 with 2 kids and a wonderful wife and all these little twinks that work for you. I mean, you had it all, Charlie. And Candace Owens saying she feels like an alien, which, many of us feel that way. Like it doesn't make sense, but it makes a lot more sense to her because she's a part of the club, right? If you're a person or a soul that is got a higher nature, that's not here for the materialistic bullshit, you don't give a shit about being the #1 podcast and how much she loves to be seen and how much she loves to drop names. Her and Alex Jones and all these people are big name droppers. And all the people, they're clout chasers and they want to be a part of the materialistic system. They want to be successful and they want these things, which is a sign of spiritual immaturity. It's, like I said, when you come in your first life, if you're coming up through like the animal kingdom, you were a dog or a cow or something that, had interaction with human beings. And you were, you moved your way through what they call the transmigration of the soul. You start off as an amoeba, and then you gain some level of mastery over, that level of materiality through a spiritual, your spiritual essence gains mastery over the material world, and then you move forward to being a worm or a mouse or these kind of things, right? You're evolving as a soul, and each evolutionary step is reflected in your material incarnation. And so eventually your consciousness raises up to some kind of domesticated animal that's around people. And, animals that are around people are just smarter because they are affected. They're pulled up by the level of consciousness. Especially dogs that are loved by, people, I guess cats to some extent, but dogs are more loving. These kind of thing. Cows are more service-oriented. And so that's why these creatures are upheld in the Indian tradition. And then you incarnate as a human being. And when you come up from the animal kingdom and you incarnate as a first-time human being, you're going to be like animalistic in your behaviors. You're going to have limited amounts of abstract thought. You're just going to be a human being in terms of your appearance, but you're going to be animalistic in terms of your internal world and very primitive, right? Primitive human being with limited access to, certainly a concept of God and the soul, and then, everything else. And when you are in that level, you start looking up at people who are far higher evolved than you. And you're not going to look up at saints. You're not going to find somebody, a higher developed spiritual being, because you're not even ready to process God like that. And so what you're going to look up to is people with money and power. And they're going to, at some point, maybe 3 lives in, you're like, wow, I wish I was one of them. I wish I was famous. I wish I was, powerful. I wish, these are people who are servants. And you'll see people like this in foreign countries. And India is a good place because of the amount of people. And like I said, people can hire 5, 6 servants. And, inevitably, you're going to want to be them. You're going to want to be smarter, and you want to be richer. You're going to want to be famous. And so you move into that sphere of activity, thinking that, because you have all these problems of poverty. You wake up every day and you're toiling in abject poverty, like all the people in the world. Over half the population lives on $2 a day or less, like just, soul-crushing poverty and a lack of resources. And not being educated, and you're gonna, it's something to shoot for, to evolve into. And so when you evolve into that, and you become a politician or a king or a royal person or a famous person, and whatever it is you aspire to, and you might go through several lives like that, and you're going to realize every time that's not why you're here. And so then you start to think about being something else, like your spiritual self gets awakened. You have, a higher understanding of abstract thought and the ability to understand God. And your material pursuits aren't why you're here, right? But there are some souls that come down already from a higher dimension, from a higher level of consciousness. They're closer to divinity, and they're coming down with specific intentions to uplift humanity. They are on a much higher level than, all the people here. And higher developed souls come down here, and they're here to contribute to the spiritual evolution and consciousness, raising of consciousness of human population. And those people are often, the West, outside of like India and some of the Eastern countries. India is the best place for higher developed souls because there's a long history of that. But then it's limited, of course, because of where the country is right now and the poverty and there's a lot of just stupidity there. But, in other places like in Europe and America, they kill spiritual people because spiritual people are bad for business. And the people that she's calling the deep state, they recognize that as a threat because they're controlling people through their material desires and their material, fears and all these things. And if you bring spirituality into it, where people have a relationship with the divinity within them, that's why they've warped Christianity. Like Jesus' best teaching is the kingdom of heaven is within. You can't have people thinking that, right? So that's why Christianity is so materialistic and fear-based, and then this idea of this pie-in-the-sky thing, if you accept Jesus, you're going to heaven. Because what most people are worried about is their afterlife, what happens after death. The mystery of death, and it's something that once people become aware of death, it could happen at a young age. It certainly happens as you get older. they start worrying about, what's going to become of me. And when they get this good, cushy deal that they just accept Jesus and they're going to heaven, and they hear all these wonderful things, and they're, that problem is, something they can just cross off their list of things to worry about in terms of, what's going to happen to them when they die. All right, so I just zipped back and I found, whatever reason, that it came to me that there's maybe something else that you said about Charlie Kirk being a time traveler. Then I was getting into Trump. It's going to be a little bit weird, this voiceover, because it's 7 minutes in, and the last clip you saw I'm not addressing till now. But, sort of folding into this thing, right? But all these people, I was saying all these people who promoted Trump, everybody knew what Trump was, but just decided to go along with some stuff because of wishful thinking. And what I was going to say about all these things, Candace Owens saying he was a time traveler and her saying she's an alien, they are a little bit more evolved than their audience, right? They're a little bit more evolved than the majority of their audience, the people that are learning from them or think they're learning from them. But what all these people who, all these people that Candace Owens showed in her video, this Project Camelot, which was about aliens and, these things. I watched a number of those videos years ago. This stuff about astral projection and these, things about ancient Sumeria and all these things, that's been around, the people that are searching for alien life and all these people that are claim to be, spiritual, but they're, religious. The thing that they all have in common and all this new age stuff that's out there is that they're hoping to take all this information, either technological information or being able to tap into some way, the people who do remote viewing, these military grade people, the men that stare at goats. They made a movie about this, remote viewing and using these types of, expanding one's consciousness. And they had these things called cities, SIDDHIS, I think it's spelled, in India, where in ancient India, you would get these powers. And they were all supposed to be spiritual and abstract, etheric things that people would use for their material life. And all these religions and all these people who claim to be spiritual and all these people, the Candace Owens and the Charlie Kirks and the, all the people who go to, Ronald Reagan, Nancy Reagan used to go to somebody who was predicting things through horoscopes and all these things that people are doing. They're trying to use spirituality and the etheric world and all this knowledge and power to change the material world. It's why people are so obsessed with Jesus, because he could do miracles. Doing miracles is something that happens on the first rung of spirituality. You can change the matrix. You can change materiality using your, spiritual will. And you're not supposed to use it. It's a power you get only if God says this needs to be changed. So miracles are for, the thing that people think about miracles, they're for spiritual people who are working to change something in the script, something that's happening on planet Earth. They're looking to change something because God told them to do so. Or you have these higher developed souls that are working for the evolutionary, the upward evolutionary movement of the species on the planet and the planet itself. The planet itself is evolving, becoming more subtle, and you're there as a saint, as a spiritual person, to help make that happen and make adjustments to whatever's going on, right? And so if a miracle's to be done, it's not a miracle that you would do because you feel like showing off like Jesus did. Jesus was young and immature in some ways when he was doing these things. And there's a punishment for you when you do that, right? And he received some of these punishments, of course, the way he died and these things, because he was, he went to India and learned some of these things. And he had whatever self-esteem issues and, these people he was working with fucking dumb fucks and, so many of these higher developed souls, as I was talking about earlier, that come down to planet Earth, the ones that are already on a higher level, they get sucked into the drama. They get lost in the materiality, and they lose sight of why they came down in the first place, and then they're stuck here with everybody else. They have a lot more capacity because they came from a higher level before they got here. And, many of those people are still here and are struggling. especially because they, they weren't supposed to be here anymore. They weren't supposed to get trapped down here with everybody else. They were supposed to come in, do their work, and get out. Do whatever spiritual work and get out. But the world, the third dimensional world, is so enticing. They get sucked into the drama. They start, thinking that they're here to serve the people that are coming to them. The fans and the people that love them. This kind of thing. And they forget about God, the real reason they're here, and their soul. And they get sucked into the drama. And so that's like another aspect. But all this stuff can be remedied when one realizes that you're not here to make your material life better. You're not here for material success. You're not here for material accomplishments, only ones that are a part of your soul's path. But your material life is here for your spiritual evolution. And you can't, those are just words, like fucking the majority. I mean, something I know and have known for a very long time and still struggle with personally. And I don't even fucking like it here. Like, I have moments of joy. I'm happy, most of the time, especially now. I'm happy, a lot happier now because of the spiritual work that was done on me. But, this fucking place is a mess, right? And as beautiful as it is and as enjoyable as it is, this fucking place is a mess and humanity's a fucking mess, right? And, most people see it and many people are just fucking out and out miserable all the fucking time. There's lots of people that Babaji, the second master of Sajmark system, referred to as the moaning masses. People that are malnourished, people who are, in horrible positions. They're in live in toxic wastelands. They're slaves, to one form or another. They're, they're oppressed. They're limited intellectually, malnourished. Their brains don't develop, in terms of their physical bodies. They're fucking lost. They don't really have a purpose or goal, and they just they're just toiling miserably in their material lives. And then there are people who are, in the suburbs making money. They're doing pretty well materially, and they're still miserable, right? They're miserable with the people in their lives, the family members, all of it. And most people are miserable in one way or another. That's why people end up getting divorced, and they think it's going to get better after they get divorced. It just gets worse. So most people are fucking miserable. And yet they'll never figure out that they can get out. Like, they still want to be here. They still want to come back in a future life. They still want to try, and enjoy themselves. They still want to, they think, whatever it is. Like, if they just have more, if they just have, a bigger house or more houses or, more, a yacht and, whatever it is, or if they're just famous or they just, then they get those things and they're like, fuck, I'm even more miserable. Right? So nobody figures this out. And Candace Owens is she's the epitome of this because she kind of flirts with these spiritual concepts, but in a way, then talking about the deep state. These guys are all fucking, the people in the deep state are, they're maybe, they're higher souls in some way that are completely gone demonic, completely lost, and they're, so they have something. Some of them, right? They're, they have potentials, or they had potential that they used to have, that has retarded in a way where they've gone backwards, whatever. Like, so, this is, each person is each person's case where they are spiritually, but the common problem, the common denominator is, you think that you're here to make your life better. You think you're here to make yourself happy and make other people happy, or, you're here to enjoy. That life is supposed to be about enjoyment, right? The pursuit of happiness in the Constitution. People think that life on planet Earth is about happiness. And happiness is, it's one of those things that it's got two sides of the coin. Master Chargy, the third master of the Sajmark system, every time he came to America, he used to say, it's two sides of the coin. If you have pleasure, you have pain. Because he saw how pleasure-oriented this society was compared to other places. He was a traveled person. He lived, he lived in Europe as a, did an internship there. Went to school in Europe, various places, some place like in Yugoslavia or something like that. He was there, and he traveled as the spiritual master all over the world. And of course, America is the number one place of pleasure. This America is really big on pleasure. We have, we had back certainly the 80s and 90s when America was at its peak in terms of lifestyle and enjoyment and hedonism. I mean, look at Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. These are pleasure-oriented people. And look at them, like they turn into fucking demons, right? Because if you're going to have pleasure, you're going to have pain. Pleasure and happiness, if you're going to be happy, you're going to have to be sad. You know, they're defined by their opposite, pleasure and pain, and happy and sad. And so for every moment of being happy, there's a moment of being depressed, right? So, you know, these are extremes, right? But happiness is on one side of the extreme and sadness is on the other. And your highest happiness point is, you know, there's a counterpoint of being completely depressed and sad and miserable. So, you know, you're going to have both things. Like anything that you have on earth comes with its twin opposite, right? Comes with its opposite. It's like, you know, the two sides of the coin metaphor. And so you're going to get both. And people never realize that. Like they pursue happiness only to have, you know, long periods of unhappiness. So, you know, you're going to have to find something beyond that, right? Which is that your soul has a purpose and you have a spiritual purpose. And it isn't about enjoyment or pleasure. It's about moving forward on your spiritual evolutionary path, right? In a recent video, I talked about detachment in a recent voiceover, maybe 2 videos ago. You know, detachment, you live your life, but you're also spiritually detached. You know, there's a distance. You're internalizing your process. And you're not looking for material validation. You're not looking for, you know, material success as a barometer of your success. Like you have to feel good about, the divinity within you has to feel good about where you're going and what you're doing and your decisions you're making. That you're including God in your decisions and you're following God's lead and your soul's lead. And so this is what I talk about all the time, right? And so all these things that are spiritualism, the stuff that Candace Owens talking about and any stupid time travel and shit or whatever it is. You know, what I said about Charlie Kirk in my last video, Turning Point had 2 major, you know, goals. You know, there was the expansion and connecting with college kids and winning them over to your point of view politically, to be Republicans and conservatives, and to get Trump elected, and to, you know, change the narrative of the negative narrative about Israel. That's how he was being funded. Those were his goals, to bolster people's attachment to Israel, get people to celebrate the Sabbath, Christian people to integrate more of the Old Testament and the Jewish teachings into their Christian lifestyle, and to support them militarily and financially in every possible way, right? Like this was, you know, a part of the Turning Point. This is why it was being funded, and also Trump was a part of that. And Trump turned out to be the piece of shit that everyone deep down knew he was. And Israel turned out to be, you know, a bigger piece of shit than most people knew they were. And, you know, that's it for Turning Point. It's done. Like it's a hollow shell of itself. And it peaked when they got Trump. They helped Trump get elected. But now, you know, whatever organizational things that they have going on there, they've lost all their momentum. And Charlie Kirk was, even when he was alive, that was happening. And so it didn't really have a point. It didn't help people connect to God and all that fucking bullshit religious shit that's in the Bible, all the, you know, the heavy duty stuff that's in there, the negativity that's in there, the materialism. And it's all about, you know, the deal itself. I mean, people think about Christianity. What do they say? John 3:16. Like that's the thing they put up there. You can only get to the Father through the Son. Meaning it's this idea of going to heaven is their number one selling point. You're only going to get to heaven if you do our fucking bullshit thing. And it's very remedial. Like, you know, if you do real spirituality and you come from a Christian background, the difference between what you can experience in Christianity on the highest level, and very few people even will experience that, the connection to God that you can experience through whatever good teachings and through the process of connecting with Jesus is, you know, it's very remedial compared to pretty much anything else that works on a spiritual level, any other spiritual type of activity. But again, the idea always has to be that you're here for a spiritual reason. Like you have a body, you are a soul. Like this is some kind of, bumper sticker, but does anybody really believe it, right? Like the words are there, but what does it mean for you? Like what are you going to change about that? Like if you like agree with what I'm saying and it resonates with you as a person, like how does that change you? What are you going to do differently that you are aware that you are a soul and your soul has a purpose and it has very little to do with your material successes and your material desires? It has 100% to do with your material difficulties and things like that you have to undergo, and how how those things shape you into, being a person that listens to the divinity within you and responds in that way. Candace Owens saying that Charlie Kirk was a time traveler and she was an alien, because she didn't get planet Earth. Well, you are into it enough to, roll out bullshit things like the Egyptian planes and to profit off of your so-called friend's assassination and to, gain fan bases and, all the things that she's developed through this process, and roll out somebody like Mitch Snow that's obviously a bullshit person, and then promote other people that are like, Andrew Tate and these other people that are bad, right? Like, if you are an alien, then you're not a good one. You're not a spiritual one, right? If you don't feel like you belong here, then you're a hostile presence, that's here to bring humanity down and your audience down to a lower level. Through deception and through, manipulation, you're not really searching for truth. Because the truth is what I said it was in the last video. Charlie Kirk was a piece of shit, and there's nothing here to, he was engaged with a lot of powerful, shitty entities that, govern this world, that are now in control of this world, and, money power and, religious power and all these other fucking low-level powers that are not about spirituality and they're not about doing God's will. And they're, taking humanity in the wrong direction. And then looking to get a position in this, what she's calling the deep state. You're looking to get a position and get some, be on a higher level in those in that kind of organizational, the demonic organizational movement to thwart the will of God. Like all these people talk about the devil, but they're talking about in their shitty religion that is thwarting the will of God. Christianity is blocking your connection to the divinity within you and using God's words. Like this is what Charlie Kirk did, right? When Charlie Kirk was arguing with that one kid in the video about, some of the things that were said in the Talmud, right? About that, Jews were only the only real people, and these goy are pieces of shit, all these things. It's people quote all the time. And he defended it saying, well, which one is that one? And you don't know anything about this, and don't look at your phone and look at me and all that shit, right? But people take the word of God to impose their materialistic desires on other people and claim that they're arbiters of what God says. They're the worst fucking people. All these religions, all the people who use God to do bad shit and do demonic shit and devil worshiping shit, which these religions have all done and indoctrinated people and scared the shit out of them. Make them think that they're going to hell if they break away from this bullshit, right? And so, they're the worst people. I mean, it's one thing to do evil in the name of evil, and you say, I'm a hedonist and I'm doing this because I like to do it. I enjoy the pleasure of being demonic. I enjoy the pleasure of, of whatever it is. Like, don't say anything about God. But people who do that same shit and then say, hey, this is because God said so. David Koresh impregnating all those young girls. He was the only one who gets to sleep with all the women in his cult because God told him, right? Well, God said this, right? God gave Israel to the Jews. Oh, I guess it's so because somebody said God said it, right? And God doesn't do shit like that. Like that's not what God is. But they've used God as a way to say that. The invention of lying. And in the end, Ricky Gervais has created his own religion, and he's saying that God's told me, because he's the only person who lies, right? Everyone else tells the truth all the time. And so, kind of a brilliant idea, and that's where it ends up. With, people using religion and the idea of God to get away with things. Like, if Charlie Kirk could see the future, like, it's not being a time traveler. If people have the ability to see things in the future and be right about them, right? And some of it could be pattern recognition, or just you could use, analytics and things to predict what's the patterns that are happening. And there's all these ways of doing it. But the best way is that you connect to divinity and God shows you what you need to see. And if Charlie Kirk saw that as soon as he started doing Turning Point USA, that it would end up in him being killed early on in life. And again, they're trying to make him a religious martyr, but he wasn't religious. He was all about power and all about these other things. I mean, he took all those shekels. He was 100% materialistic. Any God thing that he had was used to manipulate his audience and to justify for himself the path that he was on. But if you were, realizing that this thing is going to lead to your early death, and this has happened to other people, maybe it's preparing you for what needs to happen and this is your soul's path, sure. But wouldn't you change that? Like say, all right, if this is going to lead to Turning Point USA sucks. Candace Owens sucks. All this stuff sucks. Nothing good has come out of any of it. These right-wing these new people, the Megyn Kellys and the Tucker Carlsons and all these people that are, starting to flirt with truther narratives, they're wrecking the truth community that's already been wrecked by the QAnon bullshit and Alex Jones and the rest of it. And then all the dumb fucks that are in it. It's compromised now to where, it's just another part of the fucking bullshit, right? All the internet and all this social media stuff and all the way that people go about it. And then, any religion, when Jesus was alive, what did he have? Maybe 1,000 people, like nothing, right? All of us, I get 5,000 views a day, right? So Jesus had, his disciples, who most of them sucked. All of them sucked on some level. None of them rose up to his level. St. Paul, who came out along afterwards, who was influential in Christianity. But, he didn't really have much of anything. Like every spiritual being, every saint looks for a quality disciple to carry on the work, to carry on the movement. In the Sajmark system, there were 3. And then they, this piece of shit Dodgy took over. 3 is like, a record. Like it's, one of the, some of these things, organizations have a long lineage. But the movement starts to, expand in numbers and diminish in quality. When the first master of the Sajmark system was around, the people who were around him, the very few people, was under 200, were really highly developed spiritual people. But many of them got power hungry and they shit the bed. They were, they had lots of potential. They were already on a higher level. And the second master, he had about 5,000 to 10,000 people worldwide. And these people were like the best of the spiritual people that were, able to connect, that had some sort of past life association with the movement, but also, they were, higher developed souls. And, many of those guys still sucked, and they had their own problems and drama. And then Charji, the third master, got up to 200,000, and he had to micromanage everything to keep it from going south. And now whatever they have is like fucking the worst of the worst of those people. The fourth master of the system, he's like, it's just, and then if this continues to expand, the organization and the quality of the services has diminished. And then you get the dumb fucks. Like, that's when you get the dumb fucks, right? So you had Jesus, and he had his 12 disciples and a handful of other people that could gravitate, who could rise up to Jesus's level. And then Jesus died, and they had whatever the time period where the Christians were being persecuted. And then it exploded and took off. And then they got some kings and people in Europe and, all these people that, that promoted it. And now Christianity is just filled with fucking low-life people who really don't understand God, don't have the capacity for abstract thought. It's filled with dumb fucks like every other religion. So the numbers have increased, and that looks like it's being successful, but Jesus is completely bummed about what's happened as a soul, because of course he would be. You don't think Jesus looks at Christianity and all the fucking pedophiles and all the fucking money and all the wars that have been waged in his name and all the bullshit and all the grifters like Charlie Kirk and all these reverends and priests and these fucking demonic people who use God as a way to to satisfy their demonic materialistic desires. This is what always happens, right? Numbers don't help, because by the time the masses can rise up to something or embrace something, it's been watered down and it's so shitty now it's not worth anything. And that's happened over and over again. Maybe there's some slight benefit, but it's not where it was when Jesus was alive, for example, or any of these people. And so that's the tragedy of human beings wrecking everything. You get something, we can't have anything nice, right? This kind of thing. And so that's where we're at. And it's because human beings have a tendency to go to the lowest instead of rising to the highest. And each person has to look at that in themselves and work on fixing it, and people just don't. And so, I talk about this all the time, and they're just words. I struggle with it personally. Everybody does, but at least there's some effort on my part, and it's yielded some positive results. But, it's just like throwing a cup of water into the desert. All right. With that happy note, let's move on to something else. Okay. So, holy shit. This unnatural fucking hoe here, right? This ditzy person, she's in charge of a major federal operation that conducts, he's in charge of the immigration and then the Department of Homeland Security. So many things, right? And she's in charge of that. She's like fucking 100 IQ person, maybe 105, she's definitely, and just low consciousness. And she's not just the only one. Linda McMahon being the worst, right? And this is not, I'm going to talk about Making America Great Again. Let me just show you the clip, then I want to go back to another voiceover because I want to include this with the last one. But this happened here.
I know that you'd like to make me the topic of this and not what happened, but I did ask a Democratic senator just a few minutes ago about AOC's comments, and I don't actually even know what you're talking about when I ask questions as if like that's an assertion. It's a question. How can you make a conclusion before an investigation? And there really isn't an answer other than you saw the video. I want you to ask.
Okay, so like what he just said there was, he asked her, and I showed the clip of that the other day. Let me switch over to voiceover. So Jake Tapper asked Kristi Noem about the investigation to the shooting of the good woman, this whole thing. And she said there wasn't going to be an investigation based in what she saw in the video, which is completely fucked, right? And I was just talking about how she was, this low IQ, low consciousness person's in charge of the Department of Homeland Security, this whole fucking thing, right? And all the stuff to do with the border and all the rest of it. So, you have Trumpers. And, well, first let me say this. To all the people who discount the sheeple, discount the official story. So all of us who believe the official story is bullshit, and we just say, those people just don't exist in a sense. They're all NPCs. And we write them off as like, I don't want to deal with an NPC. But you have to all the time. Like all the sheeple that are out there, you can't get rid of all of them. If you took all the sheeple that just believe in the official story, or mostly believe in the official story. And, they're the backbone of America. The truthers are, maybe you have some hardworking truthers, are contributors to society. But for the most part, people with truther personalities don't get along. There's times there used to be truther wars. I still think that exists. And people went at each other. There's always people showing up, the flat earthers, the QBs, these people with hostile comments, belief wars. Truthers for the most part couldn't run a society. We're like, based on our personality types and these things. So you need the sheeple, right? And the official story is believed, it affects all of us. So whatever's going on in the official story, like, if we say that this thing with Renee Good and the guy who shot her is a staged event, still the official story is what's, going to be dealt with, right? And so in the official story, there should be an investigation. Even if it's not a real one, and they just find the guy innocent, they should investigate. But they're not even doing that. Like, that's how bad it's gotten with Trump, right? And so what I wanted to say about this, and continuing with the voiceover I did earlier, that all the people that supported Trump, all the people that, were with Trump, and, if you are now realizing that Trump is never going to make America great again. And for all of you guys who talk to your Trumper, dumbfuck friends or whatever family, you can say this, and it's not going to work, but it's just, it's a legitimate argument. And, I'm not advising because I don't know if your Trumper's going to shoot you. So, I don't want to, if you choose to use this, right? So we know now that he's not going to make America great again because, number one, it's going to be a Democratic elected House and Senate in 2 years and a Democratic president in 4. And that's almost guaranteed, right? And even if it wasn't, these Trumpers don't get along with each other. So as soon as Trump goes, they're going to be at each other's throat. They're never going to be a Trump where they all just capitulate to this one egomaniac. Like, that's just a rare thing. And they'll all start jumping ship. I mean, Trump has bad endings with all his people. You see people are already jumping ship, Marjorie Taylor Greene and a number of these other Republicans. And it even happened with Elon Musk. His coalition, the Turning Point, is a shell of itself, right? So even if Trump's policies were making America great again, and they're not, and you don't even have to say that, but you could just to be a dick. But even if they were going to make America great again, they're going to be disappeared and reversed as soon as the Democrats take hold, and that's guaranteed. And Trump right now is setting it up for the Democrats, just the same way that Biden set it up for the Republicans. And I said this to the Democrats. You're going to get Trump 2.0 because you fucking voted for a senile piece of shit, and he picked a vice president that nobody would ever vote for, that had no chance of being elected president. And the Democrats have nothing, but they've run on, at least we're not Trump. And that worked, kind of, whatever shenanigans went on. But, you just have to, like I said about Just Let It Happen with the transgender stuff and the men playing, women's sports. You give them what they want when it sucks, right? When it's doomed. You go ahead. You can fucking donate money and promote the shit out of Trump, the Democrats. Just give him everything he wants. Just allow him to just run the country into the fucking ground. And then you get a chance to run it into the ground after him, right? So that's where we're at as a country. And so there's zero chance of him making America great again because even if his policies were good, and they're not, they're policies that are going to be the opposite of those policies is going to come in 4 years. And he's destroyed all of our credibility around the globe. He's now at odds with Europe over Greenland, the shit he's pulling in Venezuela, the stuff that's happened domestically, and then the stuff that's happened with Iran, and the whole stuff that's happened with Israel, him being puppeted by Israel, which everybody sees. And so he's embarrassed himself, right? And then his whole Epstein issue. And so all these people who still believe in Trump are either one, they see all these, they listen to someone like me tell them this, or someone else, and they hear it, and they refuse to believe it, which means they're totally fucked. Like, they just don't want to admit they're wrong, whatever. They're just fucked up people, right? And so that's one scenario. The second scenario is they just don't hear any of these things. They willfully stick their head in the sand, and they only go to Fox News and other places where they're told, the same way that Candace Owens, if any of her people went and listened to the stuff about Mitch Snow or saw the video, if they had any kind of ability to think for themselves, would realize that Candace Owens is a piece of shit, right? And that she's never going to get to the bottom of this stuff because she's just grifting. And so these people are, again, they're claiming to be truthers, they're claiming to think for themselves, but they're not. They're either, when they're presented overwhelming evidence that Trump's fucking, played them, he's never been MAGA, he's never been about you, he's never been about any of these things, he lied to you, he grifted, and you got fucking, you got used, and you can't admit it. Like, any of these people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, they won't fucking admit it. Megyn Kelly, because they know that their credibility is on the line, and they just want a liberal. But no one gives a shit about the liberals because the liberals have zero power right now. And so you can't say liberal, and people don't give a shit. only like the dumbest of the dumb fucks, right? And so that's where we are as a society, where the truth is so fucking obvious and right in your fucking face. And it was the same when Joe Biden was pooping in his fucking diapers and his Depends and walking around banging into shit and tripping, and he obviously had dementia, and they refused to fucking admit it. Morning Joe and all these people, and then all the dumb fucks, Democrats, where people are willfully, because of their belief system, because of the group they belong to, ignoring what's right in their fucking faces, right? And that's what's happened. And so our country's fucked. Like, you can't be that oblivious to truth. And so many people in the truth community are as bad or worse with this stuff. You just can't, be in denial what you're seeing, because everybody wants to believe that there's a chance to save this shitty, demonic fucking system. And they want to hear somebody tell them there's some fucking way to do it, because they don't want to deal with the opposite, the truth of what's happening. That, we have a collapsing empire, that when it collapses, everything they know is their life is going to be gone. And everyone's going to have to deal with that, right? And so that's where we're at, right? So, you can claim, oh, okay, I only want to talk to other truthers, and I only want to listen to people who understand and see through the bullshit. Yeah, but you're not the one. We're not the ones driving the country right now. The official story is, and whether you want to deal with the official story and just say, oh, that's fake, that's great. You can say that's fake. But still, in the fake story, there needs to be protocols, and one of those things is that you investigate a guy who just shot an American citizen in the face, and some bullshit defense that he was being run over. And apparently, a lot of truthers are saying that same thing, and not what I'm saying. They're saying that it was self-defense. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? How can you call yourself a truther? How do you make content like you're conscious? You're worse. You're a sheeple who thinks they're awake, right? Or you're, willfully deceiving people because you don't know what the fuck to do. You're just looking around. What should I say about this? I don't know. Can't you think of yourself? You are a truther producing truther content. Nah, but what are all the other truthers saying? Because you can't think for yourself, right? And so I don't want to lose my audience, this kind of stupid shit, right? And so that's where we're at as a fucking country. And, this is why I say we're fucked, because it isn't that change is impossible. Change is always possible, but we're unwilling to change. And, the spiritual stuff is so far beyond people. I mean, it's depressing for me because, I know how hard it is to really be a true spiritual person. I mean, I know from personal struggles. I know what you need to do and how you have to sort of tame your ego and the effort that you have to put into that and resist your lower nature and embrace your higher nature. And, almost nobody does it. Nobody does it well. People who are worshipped who barely scratch the surface, right, of what you can become, your full realized spiritual potential. But that's not even on the table. I'm not just talking about, common sense and just seeing what's there to be seen and being able to read people. And, these people who are, like a Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson or Jimmy Dore, or any of these fucking people who were so wrong about Trump and so wrong about his fake assassination attempt and all these things that they didn't fucking call out. It was so obvious. They shouldn't be listened to at all. They should be like, oh, you guys suck. You shouldn't be rewarded for failure. And these people keep on failing upwards, just like the mainstream media people do. And so that's an indication that your system's fucked. When it rewards people for being fundamentally dishonest, and the worst kind of dishonesty is lying to oneself. And that's what people are doing. Okay, so let me, I don't know. I got to do something else here, go eat lunch. But I'm way ahead of the schedule. This video's, again, going up on Saturday. We'll see if anything happens. Today's Thursday or Friday in Iran. I want to add that here somewhere, maybe at the end. Who fucking knows? Probably at the end. I like the flow of this video. But I'll continue on today and tomorrow, I guess. Okay, so I watched the rest of this, right? Let's just start from where I left off. I wasn't going to show the rest of it, but I'm like, it's so fucking stupid. And it's such an indication of what I was saying.
I want to ask a question about the rules of how law enforcement is allowed to engage when feeling threatened, per your assertions. Because I want to show some video to you right now and ask, what is the appropriate response for the police officers in this situation?
It's January 6th.
Those are law enforcement officers being physically attacked. By this standard, would any of those officers be justified in shooting and killing the people causing them physical harm?
Every single situation is going to rely on the situation those officers are on. But they know that when people are putting hands on them, when they are using weapons against them, when they are physically harming them, that they have the authority to arrest those individuals.
The president pardoned every single one of those people.
And make sure that they're getting justice for their actions going forward.
President Trump.
Oh, this is such a fucking beauty queen answer. Such as, right? This is Erika Kirk, but even dumber stuff. Erika Kirk's way smarter than she is.
Trump pardoned every single one of those people.
And every single one of these investigations comes in the full context of the situation on the ground. And that's one thing that President Trump has been so focused on, is making sure that when we're out there, we don't pick and choose which situations are and which laws are enforced.
Okay. But that's exactly what you're doing, right? So if you're watching this thing objectively, and you voted for Trump, you were a Trump person, and you're still a Trump person now, even more so, or you're one of these people that push for Trump, any of these so-called dumb fuck truthers or, the shitty truthers, any truther that, when a fake assassination attempt happened and they didn't even question it, when it was so fucking fake, all these people. You got to look yourself in the mirror, not in like a suicidal way, but just be like, boy, am I a dumb fuck. Boy, am I a dumb... Like, if they took my head and they did a CAT scan on it, they would find a big pile of shit where my brain should be, right? Like, boy, am I shit for brains, dumb fuck. This is what you should say. Because this fucking nightmare of a, Barbie, this fucking cunt here, and she's just so dopey, and her answers are just so bad. But what this is about, right, is simply that the January 6th people were Trump supporters, and the so-called lesbian, and now people are calling her out, saying that her wife isn't really her wife, like this thing, but whatever that is, this good woman, and was a liberal fucking anti-ICE person. And so the laws are completely different, and the police reaction is completely different, right? Where the police reaction on January 6th, and, nobody got worked like Trump got worked during the COVID, on the Operation Warp Speed, all the way up to January 6th. He got paid handsomely for the COVID vaccine. He got so much money from the pharmaceutical companies and future considerations, right? This kind of thing. That doesn't count like him getting worked. But what he did in terms of closing down the economy, all the shit that he did, eventually caving to the mask stuff, all the other bullshit that he did all the way through. And again, if it had been a Republican pushing, if it had been Trump pushing for the masks, the Democrats would have not worn them, because they're a bunch of dumb fucks too. Like all the dumb fuck Democrats who should have said the exact same thing about having their heads x-rayed and find a big pile of shit. Everybody who's bought into this bullshit should realize now it's 100% partisan. There's no rule of law, and she's basically just got owned by Jake Tapper, who himself was a worthless piece of shit that carried water for Joe Biden, and then eventually, after 4 years of showing that he had dementia and really Parkinson's, he called him out on it and then wrote a book about it. 4 years when it's too late. So he's a complete piece of shit, and he just owned this piece of shit, right? I mean, because there's no fucking excuse for this. There's no excuse for him pardoning the people on January 6th and then not investigating a guy who just shot a liberal in the face. Other than liberals deserve to be shot in the face and conservatives deserve to assault police officers, right? Trump got so worked on January 6th, and he started that thing, and they used that against him. And now he's, it's just, this is a dumb fuckathon. And just admitting that, these people are all liars, it's all situational, and none of them can be trusted, and all of them are grifting, and there's no solution here, right? That's just being honest. But people can't fucking do that. They don't want to live in that fucking space, right?
enforced and which ones aren't. Every single one of them is being enforced under the Trump administration, and the clarity of the law stands. And if people don't like it, these members of Congress and elected officials should go change the law and make sure they have that debate and policy change.
I just showed you video of people attacking law enforcement officers. Undisputed proof, undisputed evidence. And I just...
Well, it's disputed, dumb fuck.
said President Trump pardoned all of them. And you said that President Trump is enforcing all the laws equally. It's just not true. There's a different standard for law enforcement officials being attacked if they're being attacked by Trump supporters.
So, I mean, he's a piece of shit owning a piece of shit. And if you're a Republican, there's no defense for this. Other than, like, I just blah, 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 sticking your fingers in your ears and covering your eyes and then, nah, I can't see you. It's like that kind of shit, right? Like, it's just clear this fucking woman's just incapable of having an intelligent conversation because she's probably 90, 100 IQ. I don't even know. Like, IQ is not a good... I mean, she's low consciousness. Her fake fucking face, her batshit crazy eyes, like just fucking... I mean, Jake Tapper's running circles around her, and she's got no answer because it's undefensible. Why even go on CNN? Why the fuck are you over there? You're not going to convince anybody of anything over there. They know you're dumb fucks. They know you're fucking Trump's a piece of shit. I mean, you're not going to win back your fucking base over there. Why are you even over there? Like, it's stupid. That's a bad decision.
Reporters, we just saw that.
This individual and these instances and these investigations all have to be taken and done correctly in context of every situation that is happening on the ground.
And the context is, if it's a liberal, okay, shoot her in the face. If it's a conservative, they can assault police if they're Trump supporters and get pardoned. Right? And after Trump condemns them and throws them under the bus as he's leaving the office because he had to, and then he comes back 4 years later and pardons them because he's a piece of shit. Like, he'll throw you under the bus when he needs to and then embrace you when he needs you back, right? Because he's that kind of guy, the opposite of a fucking guy that's there for you. Like, Trump's selfish, is one of the most selfish people in the history of the world. Like, he's so fucking selfish, right?
What we are doing today as the Department of Homeland Security is out there with our law enforcement officers, making sure that we're targeting the worst of the worst and that we're talking factually about each situation and making sure that we're bringing those perpetuators of violence back to justice, bringing them to justice and making sure they face consequences for their crimes. We'd love to have the partnership of Mayor Fry. We'd love to have the partnership of the Chief of Police and of Governor Walz every day when we're out there to make sure they tone down the rhetoric and they do the right thing for the people of Minnesota.
Yeah, we'd like them to do exactly. We like them to be Trump fans, but unfortunately, we're reaching out to them and saying, "Hey, you can kiss Trump's ring and kiss his taint, and then we'll be cool. Then we'll have a partnership, right?" Like, this is how fucking bad it is. And if you've embraced this thing or still embracing it, I mean, at some point you got to, like, admit you're just a fucking piece of shit that doesn't know anything about truth, right? Especially people making content. All those people who've pushed for Trump all along. Like, this is what you got. And as bad as Joe Biden is and as bad as the liberals are, stop talking about him because they have nothing. They're just out there doing liberal shit that nobody's paying attention to. Those ICE protests are just fucking retarded, like the girl said. We have whistles and they have guns. Yeah, why the fuck are you out there, dumb fuck, right? Like, they suck, but they're not the problem. They'll be the problem in 2 years or 4 years, 2 years and 4 years, when they go back over and they do their liberal shit. But right now it's Trump. And so, and the antidote isn't, well, maybe we'll elect J.D. Vance. No, the antidote is like fucking realizing there's no political solution and there's no saving this fucking country. So I just ate lunch, and these are two of there's a thing on dick pills, which I didn't catch the name of it, and I keep on wanting to do it. It's hilarious. Guy's talking about how his confidence is back, and boy, is his wife happy. Right? Because he's getting generic dick pills. I got to grab that one. It's hilarious. But I keep on forgetting to take a shot of I keep on thinking I'm going to remember the company, and I don't. But these are two other ones that,
This little light of mine has been dark for quite some time.
Boom, bring it.
Then I let in the light to help see more
Boo-woo.
of the light inside of me.
Whoa, let in the light. Let in the light. L-I-Y-T-E.
I needed more from my antidepressant.
I had fucking an antidepressant, but it just wasn't doing the fucking job. I needed fucking more. I'm depressed as fuck, and it just wasn't working.
So my doctor added Caplyta, proven to provide greater relief from depression symptoms than an antidepressant alone.
It's an add-on. You take your fucking SSRI, and then you get an add-on. It's a plus. It's Caplyta plus antidepressant. Lita.
Building on my progress without starting over.
It's progress. I mean, in clinical trials, weight
gain and reported sexual side effects were
not common.
Not common.
Elderly dementia patients have increased.
Fuck. In clinical trials, weight gain and reported sexual side effects were not common. But, you know, in trials, weight gain and patient-reported sexual side effects were similar in Caplyta plus an antidepressant and an antidepressant alone. And so they were similar, but it's a little bit of a boost to it, right? Similar, but that doesn't mean it's not more, because that's what they're saying here. But then there's this.
Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Caplyta is not approved.
Maybe death or stroke. I mean, you might die of a stroke or just die or just have a stroke on its own. But, you know, it's increased. So this extra, this plus, this light.
For dementia-related psychosis. Call your doctor about new or sudden mood changes, behaviors, or suicidal thoughts right away.
If you have suicidal thoughts, antidepressants make increase these risks. So it probably just enhances all of these things, right?
Antidepressants may increase these risks. Report fever, confusion, stiff muscles, which may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent.
Okay, so you could have a fever, confusion, and stiff muscles. Your stiff muscles which may be life-threatening. They might kill you. Or uncontrolled muscle movement, which may be permanent.
High cholesterol and weight gain may occur, as can high blood sugar, which may be fatal.
Okay, so high cholesterol, which is always good. Weight gain, which everybody wants, may occur, as can high blood sugar, which may be fatal. So your blood sugar might reach a level where it kills you.
Fatal. Common side effects are sleepiness, dizziness, nausea, dry mouth, feeling tired, and diarrhea.
Who doesn't want those things? I mean, who doesn't want? Why are you even calling those side effects? I mean, who wants a good night's sleep, or who wants to be free from being dizzy, or who doesn't want to be nauseous? Everybody loves dry mouth. Everyone likes feeling tired. And hey, do I even have to talk about how great diarrhea is? I mean, why are you even calling those things side effects?
These aren't all the side effects.
These aren't all the side. Holy shit, what else is there? I think you ran the whole fucking gambit, right?
Doctor about Caplyta.
Help see more of the light.
Boom. There you go. I mean, Johnson and fucking Johnson. All right, so that's number one. So I'm going to revisit Jardiance sometime soon. Jardiance is the one I love the most because you can get a fatal taint infection, right? That's a side effect. You know, all these things means they're taking down your immune systems, among other things. This is Otezla.
Coming to the stage this Friday, it's Ned's first team karaoke night.
Boom, Ned. Fucking boom.
But he's wondering,
what if my flaky red plaque psoriasis takes center stage?
Exactly, Ned. Fucking no one wants that shit, bro.
Next up, we have Ned.
Oh my God, Ned. What about your flaky psoriasis? Boom.
What if Ned knew he could treat differently?
Otezla is a pill that treats plaque psoriasis even in hard-to-treat areas. You can get clearer skin and reduce itching and flaking. Doctors have been prescribing Otezla for over 10 years. Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it.
Okay, exactly. How would I find that out, though?
Medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms.
I mean, who cares about, you know, I mean, when you have a little bit of fucking red marks on your face that looks like maybe a bug bite, I mean, you know, when you have something as severe as that, what's a little bit of trouble breathing or swallowing or swelling of the face or lips, tongue, throat, or arms? I mean, those are completely reasonable side effects for something that's getting rid of like some blotches on your face.
Severe diarrhea, nausea, or vomiting, depression.
What's severe diarrhea? How severe is it? Like, are you shitting out an intestine? What's happening there?
suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen.
Depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Well, how much weight loss? I mean, like, and...
Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts.
Jesus Christ. So for this thing that's just going to take care of some acne or, whatever it is, psoriasis, which is, all right, that's undesirable, but not as undesirable as depression and suicidal thoughts.
With Otezla, clear skin could be your jam.
Exactly. You're jamming it. So, I'm thinking about this to talk about what I just talked about with Kristi Noem and the rest of it, right? And the majority of Americans, when they hear side effects, when the doctor gives them these pills, and I don't know, if they read the side effects or go look at it or they see a commercial, right? I know somebody, like a second degree of separation that took Jardiance. And my wife was telling me about it, one of her relatives. And I go, I think that's the one I covered with the fucking taint infection. The fucking life-threatening taint infection, amongst many other side effects. Like it's one of a long list of them. And people think that this is some kind of like, grammar police kind of people who are nitpicky about the side effects, right? The side effects won't happen to them and really don't happen to anybody. It's just that what they have to say for the rare occurrence it happens. And medical people wouldn't give you something that could cause pain and suffering. And that's going to have, and the side effects, they could be happening inside of you before you're even aware how bad they could be. Like you could develop severe liver problems and you don't know it until it's fucking too late, right? For example. And so it's the sheeple attitude that the system wouldn't give you anything bad for you, right? The people who eat fast foods, eat shitty foods, eat processed foods, and then they get sick and they get fucking depressed because they're eating garbage, and they're given these fucking pills for their medical conditions, and then they have to take another pill to deal with the fucking side effects of the last pill, and before you know it, they're like completely fucked physically, and they're on all these medications that are keeping them alive, but just barely. They don't have anything that resembles what a true human life is. And all because they're so fucking oblivious. They're so like fucking dead inside, right? This is what's happened to our culture. Because these things could happen for you. It's like winning the fucking negative lottery, but with way better odds, right? It's like winning the demonic, depressive, suicidal ideation lottery. Like, what is it? Well, they should give the odds here. Is it 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000? Or is it just, if you take it long enough, some of these side effects start showing up? Because this shit is poison, right? These medicines are poisonous. They have poisonous effects. And oftentimes the condition you're trying to get rid of is not nearly as bad as the side effects that you're risking taking. But people just don't give a shit. And these companies are doing great because people trust their shitty doctor who's not a healer. And I talk about there's a difference between being a doctor and a healer, just like they trust Trump. But if the person was a liberal, I'm not going to trust you. God forbid I take some fucking elderberry syrup or something like that. Remember, whatever that fucking guy's name is, the big doctor for COVID, Fauci, he said elderberry syrup to Ben Affleck's ex-wife, Jennifer Gardner. She interviewed him, and she's like, what about these things? No, that shit doesn't work. Not revealing. Full disclosure, I'm completely owned by the pharmaceutical department, pharmaceutical companies. And so this is what we're dealing with, right? And they all push this shit. Like, Kennedy has made some inroads, but not enough. And that's all going to disappear. And so that's what we're dealing with. Not just the fact that this shit is poisonous, but the fact that people will willingly take it, right? There's a bit on the Impractical Jokers where they have people sitting there and they have 4 glasses of unknown liquids, some kind of liquid, and they have bizarre side effects. And some of the side effects, they get worse and worse as they read it to the people. And they got to get the people to try to take it. And many of the people just don't even give a shit. They just take it all, right? And some of the side effects are like really, they're jokes, right? They're so bad, they're supposed to be funny. And people will slurp it down because that's what they'll do. Like, people will do that. Even if it's, they don't give a shit, right? People will put toxic shit in their bodies, and even when they know it's poisonous, it's a proven fact. And that's all you need to know about where we are as a species. Okay, so this just popped up. This is amazing.
No, nothing about charges or anything that, just an investigation into what happened in terms of the ICE agents' actions. But they were, according to the prosecutors resigning today, pressuring them to investigate Renee's actions and Becca, her wife's actions. How do you feel about all that?
Well, I'm not blaming anybody. I mean, it's a hard situation.
This is Timmy J. Macklin. He's from Knoxville, Tennessee. He's father of Renee Nicole Good's late husband. So apparently, Renee Nicole Good's husband, her baby daddy, or her husband, died, and she went lesbian after that, and then now married a woman. And this is her former father-in-law, and he's not blaming I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not blaming anybody.
All the way around, it's hard for for everybody involved.
It's just hard for everybody involved.
I mean, the ICE agent, at first I didn't see the footage where he was actually, he was actually being ran. I mean, I seen the bump of the car hitting his legs.
He got clipped with his legs got clipped.
And so in a flash like that, it's hard to say how you would react.
Exactly. Like Renee once ran over my foot, and I was about to shoot her in the face myself. And then I was like, well, she is my son's baby mama.
From my understanding that he had been through that before, maybe dragged or something.
He'd been dragged about 100 yards or so.
And so, like
that kind of thing can leave an impression on a man.
It's just a hard situation for everybody. Becca, she's a great person as well. I mean,
I love that Becca. I mean, she doesn't replace my son, but she is my daughter-in-law's new wife.
I don't have any many enemies. I love everybody, and that's what the Bible tells us: love our neighbors as we love ourselves.
I'm a big fan of the Bible,
but I think there's some bad choices.
I don't think this is going the way she thought it was going to go. Out front, she's out front with this guy. How's it going? How's it being out front with Timmy Macklin going for you?
And the word says, "For the wrath of God will come upon the children of disobedience." And it's I don't blame ICE. I don't blame Rebecca. I don't blame Renee. I just wish that if we're walking the Spirit of God, I don't think she would have been there.
If she was walking with the Spirit of God, she is a lesbian. I mean, she was once married to my son. She was on the right side of things, but then she went full lesbian on us. And, if she wasn't a lesbian and she wasn't a liberal, I'm not blaming nobody, but, if she wasn't a lesbian or a liberal, she'd be alive. I understand it, right? From time to time, I might eat myself a little, if my wife, if she's in her Sunday bloomers and she squirts herself with a little bit of Chanel No. 3, and I might go in there a little and eat a little myself. Believe me, I get it. Like, where do you get these fucking crisis actors? They're like a crisis actors are us, right? Where does this guy come from? Is he going to make the rounds now? You're going to go on Fox News and say, yeah, I'm not going to blame nobody. But if you're on the right side of the Lord, maybe you don't get shot in the face. I don't know. Maybe you don't. I mean, I didn't want her to get shot in the face. And what's up with those kids, right? So those kids aren't related to her wife. I don't know if she's legally adopted them. Is it how many kids she got? One? I don't know. Fuck. And this guy, I don't know. Just seems like a good old-fashioned mess. Speaking of which, okay, so this is, who is Todd Bridges' estranged wife? All about designer Betty Jo B. Hershey. And I looked it up, and they're trying to claim that this is not a dude. They're trying to say that this is not a fucking dude. What's happened with Todd Bridges? What you talking about, Willis? What you fucking talking about, Willis? All right. I think I'll put these two things in. I don't know. I'll just put them at the end of the video. But yeah. So that happened, and they're pretty much mad at. There's no evidence to support that this is a biological man. There's none. There's nothing that you can see here. There's nothing that would indicate why you might believe that this 6'5" giant dude towering over Todd Bridges is actually doing. Some mother of four, biological woman, popped out, shit out 4 kids. All right. I don't know if I'm gonna add a voiceover tomorrow to this thing, but it's just it's a fucking mess. Todd Bridges living the fucking dream. He's living the fucking dream. All right, Todd. Okay, so I was gonna end the video there. Today's Friday, January 16th. The video's going up tomorrow. Candace Owens went on a bullshit rant about Fort Huachuca, and I just I'll just talk about it all there in these clips. But she's lost 40% of her audience, and it's just like it's become covering the coverage of the coverage of the coverage of Charlie Kirk, right? And who is an established piece of shit. So like the whole thing is just a snake biting its own tail. But here she is, like, reversing herself on Erika Kirk. I get into all this kind of stuff, going after you'll see it here. Okay, as most of you guys are aware of, I have been looking for an off-ramp to covering Candace Owens. I will still cover TPUSK occasionally, just to laugh at how bad they're doing. But it's kind of. It's like kicking a dead horse, like fucking, Candace Owens, on the other hand, isn't going anywhere because she's solidified her dumb fuck audience, right? And so there are people who want me to talk about something she said here or something she said there, but she's been discredited, right? Which all these people they're all discredited because they're part of the show. They're all, if Tucker Carlson, if Trump's compromised. So Candace Owens is now saying Trump is been compromised by the deep state. Those were words she used in one of her, recent videos, that Trump has been compromised. But how did he just get compromised? Like, what's changed, right? What changed? When did you realize he was compromised? So what she doesn't want to say is that all of her backing of him and all of those things were done when she was oblivious to him, how bad he was, right? One of my viewers sent me a video. I want to show you a clip of that. Or recommended this woman. He said that he was trying to recommend my channel on her channel, whatever it was. And his comments kept on getting deleted. I'll find his comment and I'll read it, and then I'll show you that clip. But this woman has finally come around to questioning whether Trump the ketchup game was fake, and I'll talk about that in a bit. But that's part of these things, right? It's not just what you say about a certain subject or person. It's when you say it, right? And so if you're waiting around for it to become safe for you to say something, and I recognize these people have a bigger platform and larger audience, but you're worried about losing your audience, you're worried about some kind of whatever it is, backlash, or you're all those things. You don't shill for the person. You just you stop talking about them in a positive way once or you suspect something. I could if you're making a business decision and again, it's not what I do here, but these people all have their own thing, right? If you're making a business decision about Trump or any of these things, any of these other people, whoever it might be, that you don't want to go after them, or maybe there's a friendship, there's some loyalty, whatever the thing is, right? You're waiting for them to do something so you can justify your reaction. Like you have to. It's like a breakup. that you're having with a person like Trump, yeah, I can understand that, but then don't shill for them, right? Like then you just sort of, you ease down on the rhetoric. And all these people shilled for Trump, all these people, right? And, she's Tucker Carlson's, CIA, these things, things that people know. And she's, with these people. But Megyn Kelly doesn't want to, they're still friendly, even though they're on opposite sides of this thing. These are all shills, and she used to be a part of that whole thing. So it isn't like she just became a truther. And if she just did become a truther, then why is she, got the #1 podcast or whatever she has there, right? Because, her videos get recommended multiple times. I ignored them, and they just keep on popping up. This video popped up 5 times for me. Every time I open up a YouTube page, it's a recommended video. There's 3 recommended videos, and hers is one of them. They really want me to watch Candace Owens, right? I mean, and I've watched her before, but there's other channels that I watch, and they don't recommend them at all, and there's truther channels that never get recommended. So, that's how it is. But, in her whatever she's done here, I wanted to see how she was going to handle this Fort Huachuca thing. And she's handled it in the worst possible way. So this video is entitled, "Oh Snap, We Were Right About Fort Huachuca," right? And she got exposed by, everybody that exposed her. Because Mitch Snow was not a credible source. Even if he was telling the truth, he's not a credible source. And going in on him the way she did, in a way that she wanted to open up another fucking, one of these bullshit conspiracy tentacles, in the never-ending descent down this rabbit hole, with no results in sight, right? That, she had a guy who was willing to do that, right? Some fucking bullshit source. She sources everything. She never comes out and says, this is what I think, this is my, whatever, this is what I believe. And then she puts it on her audience to find fucking bullshit, information about something and produce more stuff, which she then uses that. And it's never legitimized by her or any editor. Like if she had a professional editor, they'd be like, you can't use this guy, Mitch Snow. If she was working for a newspaper, like a real newspaper, not controlled, but like a real one, even if it was like a sort of independent thing, they would say, you can't use this guy. He's not credible, right? And she got caught. And she talks about how, there was one video where she talked about how she wouldn't sleep at all if she was doing what these people were doing, lying the way they were. Like she couldn't face herself in the mirror. Like she goes, I don't know how these people do it. And then she does the exact same thing with Mitch Snow. She gets caught using a guy who's clearly a joke, right? And instead of saying, all right, the source wasn't great, or even coming out and saying, you know what, I back Trump and I'm a piece of shit for doing that, and my judgment is poor. Because she wants to make herself like she's some knower or a seer of things, right? Some truth teller. And she clearly isn't, because she was getting shackled up with Charlie Kirk. She was working for Ben fucking Shapiro, who now wants to kill her, according to her, right? And so, she had a turn, which was a good turn, for whatever reason, but she's still owned and handled. She's still being recommended. Why aren't they really trying to take her down? But she has this thing that everyone went after her. So she says this is how she starts off here.
Okay, you guys, Fort Huachuca, the public response, it was way too over the top. We don't really need to unpack everything that transpired. But
why don't you show the video of him in the garage? And the video where he was interviewed, where he misrepresents what happened in the garage. I think I've already showed the clip here. It's hilarious. My meme is great. It's hilarious because it's so easy to make. The guy was an absolute joke. So that's what happened. And you're not unpacking it because, she's laughing. She tries to laugh it off like, they tried, this whole thing that they're out against them. But this is what she says here.
Suffice it to say, it was pretty clear they were panicking.
Who's they? Because I'm a part of they. Am I panicked? When you first told this story, I was like, this story is completely fucked. Like the story that she told before she introduced Mitch. And I mean, you guys can go back to my video, and I this is like, you suck so bad. Like, this is you sucking. Because she prayed for something legitimate. She's admitting that all this stuff she's throwing out there isn't ever going to be legitimized. Whether it's part of it, whether it's, suspicious, whether it's any of these things. She's just throwing this stuff out there. And it's never, she's never going to get to the bottom of the rabbit hole. And then you're at the bottom of the fucking rabbit hole. Like, who wants to go down there? You have to climb the fuck back out, right? And so, like I said, she is the rabbit hole. And she's done a good job of taking Alex Jones's bullshit and kind of making it better. Like, making it less crazy or whatever she's done, right? To polished it. She's taken Alex Jones in this model of just throwing out this stuff, wild conspiracies, and just never, this has always been a plague on the truth community. People sharing stuff that's not true, right? Which makes the truth community suck. And one thing I've always said about the truth community, we don't have editors. We don't have professional editors. We don't have people that come in and say, there's a freedom there, but there's also a freedom to just absolute fucking lie and just absolute misrepresent the truth. And that's what she's doing, right? So, you have to have some sense of it yourself, right? And so, she got caught using an unreliable source, going all in after weeks of bullshit from her about Egyptian planes. What happened to the French Foreign Legion? A little while ago, you saying the French Foreign Legion was involved with Bridget McComb. You were linking these fucking stories together. The Bridget McComb and the French Foreign Legion wanted to kill Charlie Kirk. But they really wanted to kill you, but they killed Charlie instead. Fuck, right? Like, she was saying shit like that, right? Because she's, and she doesn't say it, she's like, implies it, right? Like, this is, and you guys find out some more research for me? Oh, yeah, since you're a professional journalist with millions of dollars of resources and, a team of people, we'll find stuff for you, some random fuck, right, that you can't find. And then people dig up fucking, weird connections that don't really connect. They're never going to be legitimized. And so this is what she does. So she has something here in Erika Kirk having association with Fort Huachuca, right? Now, the fact that Erika Kirk and all those people denied it is usually a sign that that they weren't there, right? Like, I know that, Mitch Snow is not legitimized. He's a joke. Why answer that? Why say anything about that, right? Because you don't have to. You just ignore it. Like, Erika Kirk's ignored all kinds of things. But when she had the ability to demonstrate that she was, not there, right? And, it'd be stupid for her to be there. They don't need her for the planning of fucking... She doesn't have to go to Fort Huachuca to do that fucking horrible bad acting job that she did, right? Like, there's no doubt in my mind that Erika Kirk's complicit. But this Fort Huachuca is just, like, you have the evidence by the way she acted and wasn't really truly grieving. And so let me show you. Well, let's see if
they were bringing out Mitch's baby mama drama, sons, everything to say this never happened, and we're going, what's going on?
No, they said he was not credible and that you shouldn't use him as a resource. Even, these are all people I don't like. Alex Jones, a bunch of these shills that were working for TPUSK, they got you. The thing is that they got you, and you could have just done the right thing and said, this guy isn't as the guy thought he was. Like, this guy's been compromised. You didn't look into him. The way that you're looking into all these other people, you didn't look into him. And you refute, like, you're doing a deep dive into all these people at TPUSK and all these other people, but you didn't do any kind of research or any kind of analysis of Mitch Snow, a guy that you're using as a credible source. Like, that's the fucking problem. Like, just admit it, bitch, right? This isn't some massive conspiracy against you. These people don't like you. You're going after them, whatever their reasoning for it was. But it's just like people like me who don't give a fuck, right? I don't have a connection to any of these people. This is how this represents the truth community. But you just have this never-ending fucking lost, mysteries and unresolved mysteries that never will be resolved, and you move on to another one. Like, that's your show. And you're using the Alex Jones model, which has long been a cancer on the truth community, which you are, right? So just, you could have just said, that the fact that he was in the garage and he's talking like this, and then he talked about being in the garage and that he made up shit that didn't make any sense at all. Like, he's really a bad liar. He's just fucking, he's not somebody that you would use as a source. This guy would never be used as a source. He'd never be used as a witness. He has credibility issues, right? Like any cop, any journalist, anybody that's going to put this guy up on a stand somewhere knows what the opposing counsel is going to say about him. They're going to destroy his credibility. His credibility got destroyed, and you're not admitting it. Like this, look at fucking these expressions and this shit that he does.
Here, why are you guys so freaked out about this base? Clearly something happened here. And
it had nothing to do with the base. They were going after you. Like, because you got caught fucking being a lying piece of shit, right? That's what happened here. You got, like I said, I want to get off the off-ramp because, the only thing that I wanted to see was how she handled it. Like, she was on vacation and Mitch Snow stuff came out. And she said she's bringing out baby mama drama. No, the video was fucking... When you see this video, you say, this guy's not credible. Show your audience the video and say, what do you guys think? Do you think this guy's credible or not? And so now what she's done, this is why I'm covering this particular thing today. She's still talking about him in a way. Like she said, Suge Knight, I use Suge Knight who's a fucking criminal. If Suge Knight saw someone at Fort Huachuca, I don't care about his credibility as a person. I just care about the fact he saw someone at Fort Huachuca. Or he said he did. And that gives me, another thing to dive into. And now she's diving into Fort Huachuca. And whatever she finds out, whether it's fucking, Anton LaVey, that other guy, whatever that guy was that, that, I'll think of his name later. The colonel that was in charge of the psychological operations. She's bringing in he looks like Eddie Munster, right? And she's bringing in anything that, that bad shit happens at these forts, which, the military is a mind control operation. They do mind control. I've had friends, people I knew in college that went through the, Paris Island and where the Marine boot camp training. My brother was in Vietnam, and they have a system of breaking you as a new recruit, like people who go through boot camp. And of course, it gets the higher level stuff. I mean, it's like basically torturing you, right? And psychologically breaking you. And there was a movie. It was Full Metal Jacket by was that a Stanley Kubrick movie? And it's a fucked up thing. That movie came out when I was hearing about these things. And they fuck with you, right? They break you down and build you back up and turn you into a killing machine, right? And so, the military is a mind control type of situation. And they use these. It's, they turn you into slaves. All this thank you for your service, which I've been... my wife and I were watching this comedy. It's called Con Man. And it's that one, the guy, he was in that TV show Firefly, and he was the pilot. And Firefly and, whatever there was a movie about it. And he basically has taken, he's made a fictional show that half a season. He goes to these conventions, right? And they're like these 10-minute bits. And he was doing a voiceover for a video game, and he started saying, thank you for your service, just the way I've been doing it. Like, it's just hilarious that all these connections. I mean, this has been out for a while. And he was saying, thank you for your service. And my wife was like, he's doing the same. And we didn't even notice it, right? Because it's kind of a comedy. And whatever. I'm like, yeah. But this thank you for your service and all the stuff you see at Super Bowls and the way that they honor the military, right? There's a great scene in there where he wants to sit in first class, and he takes a fan, and he's trying to order the fan into the show. But, this thank you for your service. People grow up thinking, wow, it's one way to get, like, sort of famous or be honored is to join the military. But, you know, my brother had said this, like when you join the military, you know, he's talking to me about this, you give up your rights. Like, you know, that you got, they order you to do something, you got to fucking do it, right? Or you're court-martialed. I mean, it's a bad thing. And you're often ordered to do, you know, I was also watching this thing, we were watching this Dark Wolf, it was this movie, The Terminal List, and it's kind of interesting that they get into, they're partnering with Mossad, and it's anti-Iran, and it's interesting the timing, because right now we're close to going to war with Iran, or whatever it is, for, you know, there. But, you know, there was the one guy wrote a letter talking about, you know, the brass, the military brass, and say we lose a rifle and we get punished, they lose a war and they get promoted. You know, and that's always been the problem, that the military grunts, as my brother would refer to himself, you know, the guys who do the work, you know, the low-ranking army, and, you know, whatever it is, the military, and the guys who control them. And then there was this woman who came out and said a lot of these guys were sexually abusing these Marines, like it was like there's a whole gay thing going on there, you know, this whole stuff. But these, you know, my brother said that, you know, you give up your freedoms with this idea that they're going to take care of you, you know, because that's out there. Like, once you're, you know, you're a veteran, everyone's like, oh, thank you for your service, right? They're going to take care of you. And they weren't doing that. The VA broke down, you know, the Veterans Hospital and all this stuff. You know, they weren't taking care of them. And they came out with PTSD, and they, you know, you can't find jobs because people don't want to hire vets, because they don't want to hire people that are, you know, trained to kill people. They know that there's been some kind of mind control. So there's a whole army thing. And you're going to find stuff with the army all the time. If you look into it, you know, it's dangerous business, but, you know, she's a shill, so whatever. So you could find something at Fort Huachuca. That doesn't mean that Mitch Snow is telling the truth, right? And, you know, he never saw that. He said that he saw her at Fort Huachuca, you know, this guy. And she said he was stationed there. He wasn't stationed. You know, this other guy she just talked about. Like, some guy said, you know, he was stationed at Fort Huachuca and he saw her there. Some guy on the internet. Because you're going to get people doing that, because you've put it out there. And people look at the way to be famous, or you could just do it yourself. You could just create a fake account pretending you're a vet and put that shit out there. Erika was there, and then disappear and say, hey, you know, the person got scared off. But it was out there, you know, this kind of thing. And people are going to believe it because they already fucking hate Erika, you know, and, you know, for legitimate reasons. Because she had, like I said, she has to be compromised. But, you know, the army does, like, mind control shit, but they're not sloppy, right? And, you know, very seldom is there a legitimized scandal.
More that's an intel base. We learned more about how they were teaching courses to their agents on how to pretend that they're Christians and to be inserted within Christian organizations.
Okay, so these are all things that she thinks she's pretending she knows now. Like, she's dealing with a deep dive in there. And any information that would dispel her you know, her narrative, she's not going to tell you. Like, she's not going to say, guess what, I'm wrong about this, or she's going to find anything to do with it, right? And she's going to find shit. Like, there's going to always be something. You know, there's always stuff with the military, there's always scandals, there's always whatever it is. There's always shit that goes on in those bases, because everyone's fucking under mind control. Everyone's fucked up, right? I mean, the whole military is a fucked up thing. Like, the way that they treat the soldiers and the way that what the military's about. It's a part of the military-industrial complex, and there's, you know, it's connected to these intelligence, I mean, all the stuff that's done. You know, it's about killing people, right? It's about turning people into fucking weapons and killing people and all the things that go with it, right? There's always shit that, you know, it's about war. It's like about promoting war. It's a war profiteering, the whole military industrial. So you're going to find tons of shit there, right? And tons of depravity. It's about power and the abuse of power. So, you know, this is always there. Some of the stuff might be legitimate, some of it not. That doesn't mean Erika Kirk was there. And why the fuck would she be there? Even if there was something that came out of Fort Huachuca, they don't need her to go there the day before he gets fucking shot in the throat, right? So let's find the video here of her, whatever, we'll move on. Okay, so, you know, again, I'm just trying to wrap up this video. But here she gets into the Erika Kirk stuff. And it should be clear that, you know, she should be clear that some guy said he showed up at Fort Huachuca and saw a bunch of these people. And he's a piece of shit and he has no credibility. But even if they were at the fort, it doesn't mean anything, right? Because, you know, they don't need a whole military base to take out Charlie Kirk. And she's already said they needed the French Foreign Legion. Like, they're involved. And she started off with Israel, brought in the fucking Egyptian planes. You have 4 countries involved, right? America, Israel, France, and Egypt, at least, right? And now a whole military base. You know, you don't need that much stuff, right? You need a team of professional assassins and whatever else people that are involved, and some inside people at TPUSK, which there clearly are. Like, they're, you know, and you don't, I mean, it's not, you know, the more complex you make it, you know, is there going to be aliens involved? Like, at what point is, like, you're just killing one dude, right? Like, you know, I mean, all you need is one person and one gun and the victim. Like, you need 2 people and a gun. Like, that's all, right? Like, you know, I mean, if you can get a guy up on a roof, and again, I don't believe in the individual narrative, you know, this thing, I mean, because it takes a lot more, you know, I mean, to do something like that. But, you know, all you need is one guy and one gun. That's what they've been able to, you know, I mean, that's legitimate that you could have one guy and one gun to commit one of these murders. Because people get murdered all the time, and it's one person and one gun, right? There's no other people involved. It's one angry person, murderous person, you know, psychologically fucked up person. And so, you know, like the official story, I don't believe that because it's fucking goofy and it's unlikely. I think there has to be, you know, more people involved. But there doesn't have to be a whole army base involved. There doesn't have to be multiple militaries. I mean, what you would need is the FBI is a part of this. Trump would have to be a part of this. You know, Netanyahu, whatever's going on with the Egyptian planes, the French for whatever reason, and these other people, right? And then people at TPUSK. So you're talking about hundreds of people involved in this thing, you know, at the very least, in multiple organizations and agencies.
Worked with her from about 2010 until around 2013 on a mini film that never saw the light of day. As evidence of this, because I was thinking, am I being trolled here? And then no, I wasn't being trolled. As evidence of this, they actually provided me with movie posters, which were professionally shot, and the movie, which was entitled November Renaissance. Okay, sure. We obviously we know that she did some acting or reality TV. I don't know how we would phrase it. We know that she was pursuing the stage. Obviously, she was involved in pageants, and we're checking out this movie poster before I tell you what it's all about, what the movie itself is about. Just by way of association, virtually everyone involved in this movie, the actors, the stunt doublemen, they are involved with Fort Huachuca, okay? Involved with the military at the very least. The person they said she was really close to was Clayton Haugen. I hope I'm saying that last name right.
So again, this is just, you know, whatever legitimate stuff there is to this movie, right? Like, this is, you know, adjacent stuff. You know what I mean? It's just like, bring some real fucking thing. Like, bring something real, something tangible. You know, something, you know, like her being seen at this fort wouldn't mean anything, but you don't have a credible witness that saw her. You don't have anybody. You had a guy who, like we saw Mitch Snow and what he turned out to be, and then some anonymous person, they showed up and then disappeared. And so, even if she's at the fort, like they're saying she lives close by, like this is close to her house. So she's, you know, some hours away. Like this is not even whatever it is. Like she could be in the area, like they said, at a hotel or whatever it might be. And, you know, but that doesn't make that this thing happen or originated from Fort Huachuca. You know, my whole criticism of her is she just keeps on throwing more and more shit at the wall and never goes any fucking where. You know, she said she had Tyler Boyer. She had witnesses that said the guy sexually, you know, was hitting on interns and, you know, young men that worked there. and was gay. And he's the guy who hired her, hired all these people and introduced her to Charlie, all this thing. He was Charlie's second in command. Like, release that shit, right? Like, that's fucking real shit. If you have it. You know, like, she just moves through. She says she has these things, never produces anything, right? She did in the very beginning and then hasn't since. Like, this is what I've been talking about all along. It's just a never-ending fucking, you know, like, there's a point where you know what happened. You know, Charlie fucking was a shackled up piece of shit that fucking, you know, tried to turn on his owners, the people that bought and sold him, which is Israel, and now he's dead. Or not, right? You know, whatever happened to him. Like, there's nothing to see. It's not, the fucking story's already kind of, I mean, well, Erica's, you know, whatever she did reached its pinnacle, and now she's in hiding, and TPUS Gay is dead, and Candace Owens is still fucking kicking this corpse, right?
Haugn, maybe it's just Hogan, and he does marketing for the defense contracting firm Dillon Aerospace. There's Don Fry. You might just think of him as a fighter, but he actually graduated from high school in Sierra Vista and then trained in judo at Fort Huachuca.
No way. Fort Huachuca?
There is Peyton McCormick.
Who's he? Who's this guy?
Her grandfather is Colonel Pete McCormick. Her father is Lieutenant Colonel Alan McCormick, once stationed at Fort Huachuca.
No way. They were there. They were stationed there.
Peyton was also, by the way...
You know, this is kind of Alex Jones stuff where they just, you know, and who's that other guy that copied Alex Jones for Fox News, whatever. He interviewed Erika Kirk, Glenn Beck. Like, this just fucking, you know, this putting shit up on a bulletin board and running string between it and all the connections and then never solving anything and then moving on to something else that's fucked up. You know, like, you know, whatever it is. And never getting to the bottom of it. Like, you know, the idea that she's going to resolve this is always there. At some point, there's going to be some resolution, right?
Miss Teen USA in 2006, Priscilla Annual. And again, we can pull up that poster, Skylar, so they can just see we're going through the names here as well. Her father was a lieutenant stationed at Fort Huachuca.
No way.
There's also Chantel Thuy. I didn't have too much time to go through that person's background. I bet I could find a clear connection to Fort Huachuca since that's the theme.
Okay, so fucking, you know, I want to get to it's just, like, it's just it's so hard to listen to. And like I said, I want an off-ramp. I just want to get through and find something here, you know, to where I can bring this thing to an end. Like this episode of my video here.
Erika in this film was set to play a character named Evelyn Mathis.
Oh my God, Evelyn Mathis. Fucking Evelyn Mathis.
We know this because we found the remnant of a Kickstarter that was still available to the public. Now, I wish I had given to this when it was first put up back in 2012, 2013.
So 2012 and 2013, there was a movie, a fucking, obviously a bad movie if Erika Kirk was in it, right? That was coming out of Arizona. But they had a Kickstarter. Which means, here, let's let her go into this thing here.
Because I would then be able to open all of these posters and learn more about that particular character. But I can tell you definitively that this was a movie about corporate espionage.
No way.
Assassins.
No.
And technology.
Wow. Yeah. Guilty. Fucking guilty. Guilty as fucking charged.
Oh, tech. All used to help the government and corporate financial institutions maintain power. I am not kidding. I'm going to read you the description here before showing you a video. It says, in the world of tomorrow, the mind has become a hard drive linked.
Okay, so you should, like, minimize this when you say that they had to put this out on Kickstarter. Because many of us covered the movie Snake Eyes and Erika Kirk's legitimate music video, which is highly suspicious, where there's connections. Snake Eyes, there's a guy named Kirkland who gets assassinated in the opening part of the movie, and it has all this stuff in it. I mean, you can dive deep into it, and people did. And what comes out of it? Absolutely nothing, right? You know, there's this connection, but it doesn't prove shit, right? So, first of all, look at her. Why does she have Candace everywhere? You know, So this is the world of 2020. So it's all the way back. This was a movie that was never made, where 2020 was in the future, and Erika Franze was going to be the star, and they didn't have any money, so they tried to get it up on Kickstarter, and if it was legitimately something, right? If it was, and again, you know, we'll see what her bullshit thing is about how it's connected to Fort Huachuca, but there's nothing here. This is fucking nothing, right? Like the Snake Eyes movie and Erica Kirk's, you know, her stuff that she did fairly recently with the music video and some of these other things, and the connection there, right? That she was on a zip line and it went by and it said 910 in Vegas, which she did it, and all these things, right? There's all this stuff that's there. That's something, but it's really nothing, right? It's not proving anything. Like how we don't need to be proven that Erica Kirk's a piece of shit, that really their marriage was fake to whatever their marriage was, and she's pushing an official story that nobody believes, and that everything she's done made it worse, and that people just don't like her, right? And like she's, you know, now she's finally going after her. You know, she's going after her months later than everybody else. She had a truce with Erica Kirk, and this is where she's going with Fort fucking Huachuca in a movie that needed Kickstarter money to get going. Like, if you're saying this is being backed by powerful people, and Erica Kirk, this makes her guilty, you know, who's to say what she's, like, even involvement in this? Do you want to star in a movie? Sure. We don't have any funding yet, so we're going to go on Kickstarter. Okay, call me when you fucking get some funding. I'll do a picture for you here. You know, because that's going to help, because everyone knows Erika Franze. You know, like if this was some CIA operation, you know, or something like, you know, whatever. I mean, these people are all involved. Like if you're going to talk about her family, or you're going to talk about all these types of things, then talk about Tucker Carlson's dad in the CIA. Like that's not suspicious. You know, she just chooses the rabbit hole she wants to go down. That's my point about her. So here, fuck.
Project was never released despite posting updates up to 2017. But I want to show you that to just confirm that our suspicions were correct. And that is now beyond ridiculous to suggest in any manner or form that Mitch's testimony that he plausibly saw Erika at Fort Huachuca is deranged, crazy, or figment of a madman's imagination. Again.
Okay, so the project was never more than an idea that they put up on Kickstarter. And who's to know what Erika Kirk's actual involvement in with this project that has nothing to do with really Fort Huachuca. Like she doesn't tie it to Fort Huachuca. There's connections between some of it, you know, loose connections between Fort Huachuca and this film that never was made. And so why is this more legitimate than the video that we saw of Mitch Snow in the garage, right? And then lying about it with his wife. The thing about Mitch Snow is he's a liar. And he went around and he's a victim and he makes up these fucking outlandish stories. Nobody believes him. He's a grifter, a bad one. You know, he's not a rich guy. He's out there begging for money. You said you were going to raise him money for him. He had a fucked up marriage, a fucked up divorce. His kid hates him. And then, you know, he has all these situations that he's lying about. He was going around trying to get custody of his kid, which he never did. There's no evidence that he paid child support. He did any of these things that, you know, whatever it was. You know, he's a fucking, I mean, he wasn't credible when you talk to him. And so why are you diving into this fucking movie that was never made, but not diving into your source, right? You're responsible for your source. You know, you're legitimizing your source to your audience. This is a big fuck you to our audience, right? This, you know, they did updates all the way up to 2017. Wow, this is you got the fucking smoking gun, right? And then she's coming out and saying, this legitimizes Mitch, be this fucking Kickstarter movie. This legitimizes him. And your audience buys this shit. Like, this is how fucked everybody is. This is how fucking stupid everybody is, right? I mean, this is not just her audience. These are audiences across the board.
These people who gave this to us were our friends with Erika. They know her. They say she knows about the space. So let's just shut that down.
She knows about the base. It's close to her house. What do you mean? Because she was in a fucking Kickstarter movie? She was almost in a Kickstarter movie that somehow is connected loosely to the base, not being filmed at the base or whatever it is, right? Like, there's nothing there. There's nothing that she says here. Because I can't watch her. Like, I can't sit through, just listen to her, go through this. I mean, it's just so fucking dense and just bullshit. Like, it's just horrible. Like I said, I have an aversion to her. I have to read through the fucking transcript and search for Fort Huachuca, right? And so let me just show you that. Okay, so this is, I don't think I showed you this part, but I made reference to it. And she says, a person stationed at Fort Huachuca, which is what they say here. This is number 8. There's 42 references to Fort. It says a person stationed at Fort Huachuca claimed publicly that they had seen Erika at Fort Huachuca. They were certain of it, and then they sort of got chased offline and they deleted it. All right, so there's nothing there. So this is number 8 of 42 references to Fort, and you can't search. I can search Huachuca here, which would be the same thing, which would probably be better. We can search Huachuca, the way that the thing Huachuca. Okay, so we're going to search Huachuca. There's 23 references in the transcript here. At 14 seconds, at 42, some of these things I showed you. And so we get into this thing. The actors and the stunt doublemen, they were involved at Fort Huachuca. Okay, I'm involved. The military at the very least. So these people, maybe she's making it up. Maybe there's some kind of connection between. Like, what do you mean stuntman? The stunt double? She had a stunt double for a fucking Kickstarter movie. she had a stunt double. All these people she's bringing up, they were Fort Huachuca here. This guy Alan McCormick. We saw some of this stuff. So she's saying all these things. These are some ways that this Kickstarter movie had some light things in connection with here. Mitch testimony that plausibly saw Erika at Fort Huachuca. They're here, Fort Huachuca there. Oh, I saw Erika at Fort Huachuca. This was a woman, by the way, wrote this, and a bunch of people started yelling at her because she said that they had seen Erika the day before. Who posted is currently stationed at Fort Huachuca, and the internet caught that as somebody in the internet. Fort Huachuca said, yeah, this post actually happened, and there was more, I guess. There was chats amongst our military personnel that were stationed there. So, again, there's no tangible evidence. And if she was at Fort Huachuca, I mean, she's involved with the military. Whatever her dad or mom were involved in the CIA, whatever the things that said about her. Again, Tucker Carlson's dad worked for the CIA. So, I mean, are you going to cover that, right? So, and I'm not trying to fucking exonerate Erika Kirk. I was saying Erika Kirk was obviously involved the day after she was, like, when I first started covering this, when she gave that speech. She was telling everyone how great Erika's speech was, right? So let me go back and show you that. Like I said all along, if the official story isn't true, they have to compromise the wife. Erika Kirk has to be on board. Otherwise, there's no way they get away with this. Erika Kirk has to be basically a crisis actor or a CIA asset for them to assassinate Charlie Kirk. You can't have her saying the official story is bullshit. I don't believe it, because that would blow up everything, right? Like you can have Candace Owens doing it because she's has no credibility anyway, and she'd have no real evidence. But her doing it even is, look at how much damage she's doing. Imagine if Erika Kirk did what Candace Owens was doing. But here's Fort Huachuca. Here there was order to lower drones on that day, so that brings up a total of 3 people. And so one point, Turning Point executive Erika did send a video that I have been asking for regarding Fort Huachuca alibi, but it wasn't. I don't think they're comprehending what I'm asking for. Because why does she even have to fucking do that? Why would she do that? And then later on, an hour later, she mentions it again here. So she never connected the movie really to Fort Huachuca, a movie that was a Kickstart movie. You have nothing. This is not a real thing. This isn't worth an episode. And it certainly doesn't deliver. Oh, snap, we were right about Fort Huachuca. Erika Kirk was on a poster for a movie that never got fucking off the ground. And there was a stunt double for a Kickstarter movie that was trained at Fort Huachuca. So fucking, Mitch Snow was right. Like, this is amazing. Let me go back and find this, Erika's speech thing. Okay. This is the third video that she put out, I think, after Charlie Kirk died. And Erika Kirk had already given these horrible speeches. And this is when it became interesting to me. When Erika Kirk gave speeches, and there was the whole weird Instagram thing with her hands on the coffin and her crying and was so performative. And, later on, Candace Owens would attack Erika Kirk for, when Erika Kirk said, can I have this one thing, which is where Charlie was buried? Can me and my kids have one thing that's private and personal? Do we have to have everything out in the open? Right? And she got all mad. And Candace Owens brought up that weird video of her on Instagram. So Candace Owens already knew this was weird, right? Like later on, 3 months later, she would finally admit that it was weird. But when this first happened, she was very friendly with people at 2PUSK. Of course, there was bitterness. They booted her the fuck out of there, right? And she was very proud and happy to show everyone that Charlie wanted to bring her back in that text message exchange. And her and Erika clearly were not friends. She didn't have her contact. Like she talked to all these other people there, including the guy who pulled the camera. Like she called the guy up who pulled the camera and, later on, and he gave her a clip of him doing like a reaction video to Charlie Kirk's assassination. Like she talked to that guy. That guy was an independent contractor that was in charge of the audio video. And she knew him better than she knew Erika. I would assume they didn't like each other. Erika Kirk came in and she had already been friends with Charlie and they were very close, traveled together. Maybe there's some kind of sexual thing there, who knows, whatever. Based in whatever this is. Like, this is all performative. But they had a relationship, a close relationship, Candace and Charlie. And I think when Erika came in, the relationship soured. Like, she was no longer in. And then, of course, the stuff that happened with Israel. So I think that she has some jealousy or whatever towards Erika. But she didn't say that at the beginning because she's a flying piece of shit, right? This is what she did say.
Last week was not a dream. Charlie Kirk, my friend, is dead. And he was publicly executed. I want to make that clear. Charlie Kirk was publicly executed before the world. And as we are all searching for answers, the ones that are being supplied to us are not making a lot of sense. And some people, I would say, are speaking too much, or speaking on behalf of other people. I don't like it. I will say something that I think brought the world a lot of relief, also, sadness, we were grieving with her, was when his wife, Mrs. Erika Kirk, addressed not just the nation, but the entire world. Her words were very powerful. And we just have...
So this was her bullshit speech, right? And when I saw this speech, I was like, holy fuck, right? Like, you guys can remember the videos I made, some of the earlier videos. When Erika Kirk showed up, it was like, oh, this thing's going to be great. I didn't know who Charlie Kirk was. Certainly didn't know who she was. I'd heard Charlie Kirk's name. I didn't hear Erika Kirk's name. And then when she showed up, I'm like, oh, this is getting fucking good, right? And clearly, I was not alone. Anybody with any common sense or ability to perceive people, knew that Erika Kirk was grieving poorly. It included many TPUSK followers. And just like with her and Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, that doesn't mean she's going to get along with Erika. And if you have like a girl that's a friend, chances are that girl is not going to like your wife, your eventual wife, right? Like, I think in the history of, oh, my best friend's a girl, and then her getting along with your inevitable wife is almost never going to happen, right? You know, I had a friend that was a girl in college, and I started dating this other girl, and we went somewhere together, and it was one of the worst days of my life. We went, and I was sick, and we went to a carnival, and it was just fucking horrible. I blocked out most of it, but I know it's a bad thing. So, this whatever dynamic was there, she clearly didn't like Erika Kirk, and she knew that this was fucking performative and weird, because she would later call Erika Kirk out, which I'm not going to show you because you guys probably already saw that. She called her out on that whole bullshit thing that she did with the coffin. That was so fucking weird. Like, you're the one who brought cameras into when Erika Kirk wanted privacy, and then she goes, you're the one who brought fucking cameras in, when their relationship finally soured. But initially, she's lying. Candace Owens is lying to her audience here. She's pretending that what Erika Kirk is doing here is fine. That shows you what kind of piece of shit she is. She's not a truth teller, because she felt a totally different way towards this thing.
Have a very brief portion of her remarks, which you should pursue in their entirety, but here she is.
If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you...
My Charlie received into the merciful arms of Jesus, our loving Savior. You don't know that. You hope that, right? But you don't know it.
Just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea.
You have no idea.
You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry.
Okay, so this was a scripted line that also appeared on her Instagram. The same Instagram post that Candace Owens would mock later on, right? Like, here it is here. So this is the problem here at the very end, or last mention of Fort Huachuca.
Again, I will pursue that alibi in earnest. I'm going to send them a video so they know what I'm talking about. I don't know if it's just like the translation's getting lost over text message. Hopefully I'll have an update for you guys by Monday. But if you have more information about Fort Huachuca, more tips at CandaceOwens.com. Otherwise, we have an interview dropping tomorrow.
So, no one's going to say, hey, Fort Huachuca is fucking wonderful. Or if that's not a tip that she will, in the alibi. And what is she looking for the alibi? Like, what is she looking for? Like, is there any alibi that'll satisfy her, right? But her going to her audience and saying, hey, you guys, if you can find any more dirt on Fort Huachuca, and I have, like, a fucking low bar. Like, her whole job here, if she's not going to be, all right, this is what I think. She kind of says that in a very fucking dickish way. But if she's not going to be like, all right, this is what's happened. I'm gonna get sources. I'm going to do everything with sources. I'm going to be like a legitimate reporter. I guess she was with The Guardian or some shit like that. And I'm going to do deep research here. And I'm going to present it to you on fact-based. Like, she says she deals in facts, right? And Mitch Snow's thing is not a fact. There's nothing here that's a fact. I mean, she's bringing in these, a fucking movie Erica Franze was in. And this should discredit her, but the dumb fucks that are listening to her don't know what I'm talking about. And they come here and I explain it to them, and they're like, "Hey, she's great. What are you doing? Fucking because you're dumb. Like, I can't make you smarter, right? I can't increase your. I mean, at least in terms of maybe if you listen to these videos with an open mind, your mind would expand because you're being, there's higher level concepts here than this remedial dumbass bullshit she's pushing. But her whole job is to make sure the shit she's putting out there is credible and factual. But she's not a truthful person. So let me go back to the Erika Kirk thing here. Let's scroll through it here. So here she is with this baby walking, and then I don't know what the fuck that bitch is doing. We know her, that wonderful woman, and then here she is all bedazzled. There she is there. There she is with Charlie wearing her dress. There she is with her Emerald City dress from Yellow Brick Road. There she is crying there. She's crying there again. There she is with Trump, wearing her lacy mourning wear. Remember the fucking professional grifting mourner. There she is with a letter she's reading from Charlie. There she is crying again. There she is, Charlie. So this is, I think, here, this is this the one here? So this is a speech that she gave. And then this is her mom. I guess that's after her speech. Where was the thing before that? Did they get rid of it? Is it here? Here's Charlie. Oh, here's the coffin, right? And the sounds of this widow, right here, the sound of this widow weeping echoes throughout the world like a battle cry. And there she is with her weird hand on his fucking lapel, and his fucking weird hand without his wedding ring, his black wedding ring, her weird rings that, you know, have some Freemasonic content, you know, the G on her ring, the Freemason, there she is there. She is weeping with the Vances. There she is with Usha walking, being filmed by somebody who knows who. We know who it is, but I don't, you know, can't remember. And there she is. She's like, I can't go any farther. Help me, please help me, Usha. I can't make it to our limousine. And so there they are. There she is weeping again. There she is. Oh, don't film me. Don't film me, you guys. Come on. It's supposed to be a private moment. Come on, you guys. So this line right here, which she said over and over again, the sound of this widow weeping echoes throughout this world like a battle cry. So, this thing that Candace Owens was praising, she later criticized, right? That line you just heard was the scripted line that she read, but also was a part of an Instagram post, and I think it was somewhere else, right? The cries of this widow will echo around the world, right? This was her powerful moment.
To claim. Take a listen.
Talk to me about this part of the conspiracies that are out there, this disturbing part that people are trying to guess where Charlie is.
Can I have one thing? Can I have one thing? Can my children have one thing? Everything was public. We will be building the most beautiful memorial for my husband at Turning Point USA, and it will be for the world to see, and it will be spectacular, and it will have basically museum style for our Charlie, for my Charlie. But can I have one thing? Can my babies have one thing where we hold it sacred, where my husband is laid to rest, where I don't have to be worried about some secular revolutionary coming and destroying my husband's grave while my daughter is sitting there praying? One thing. This is my husband. Yes, he was Charlie Kirk to the world, and I know so many people love my husband, and I am grateful for that, but this is my husband, and I want to be able to have one thing left that is sacred to our family, to my in-laws.
You know, this is rehearsed, right? You get that. Like, this wasn't spontaneous. She knew these questions were coming, and this was a powerful moment. They showed it over and over again. Remember, she went on a Fox News tour. And people are like, fuck you, bitch. You don't, the internet doesn't give a shit, right? You know, so this is like whatever it is.
To my babies and to my parents, one thing.
Okay, so on its face, I actually agree with that. I think that when people are being buried and where they're being buried and how their funeral.
Now, I come from Connecticut, and where she does, sort of similar places. She's by Yukon, which is kind of out in the Connecticut's kind of rural anyway, but suburban. But buried?
Funerals are done. That is very private matter. Okay, so objectively, I agree with what she's saying. Okay, but subjectively, because we are dealing with the subject of Erika Kirk and what transpired immediately following Charlie's assassination, this is going to be read as Meghan Markle syndrome. Okay. Meghan Markle syndrome, where you want privacy when you want it.
Okay, so let's go to this thing here. This is where she gets into, right here.
And to publish his dead body on Instagram was a decision that was made by Erika. And we can watch that. Take a look.
Oh, I love you. I love you. I love you. I know. I love you. I love you. God bless you.
There's the G ring that stands for her daughter, Gigi, as she calls her, but Also, Freemason. That's cover for a Freemasonic thing.
That is an incredibly personal and an incredibly intimate moment, that you invited the public into. Okay, there was no reason to do that outside of wanting to share something that was very private with the public. And now you fast forward 3 months removed, and it's why does the public want to know where he's buried? It doesn't work like that. You have to make a decision. I want this always to be private, or I want this always to be public. That's my personal feedback there. Later on in this same interview.
All right, so this is the same thing that she's talking about here.
The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry.
First of all, that didn't happen. She's in fucking hiding now. I mean, we heard your cries, and they didn't fucking echo around the world like a battle cry. They got kind of mocked, pretty much. They mocked you out of fucking existence. It didn't land. I don't know who was in charge of this psychological operation and what was the nature of it, whether Erika Kirk was supposed to be controversial with not with just the left. And we know what the left was going to say, but the left doesn't even give a shit. The left moved on pretty quickly. Mainstream media moved on pretty quickly. So this was a MAGA on MAGA crime against Erika Kirk, right? This was their reaction. They're the ones that were.
To everyone listening tonight across America, the movement my husband built will not die. It won't.
Yeah, it's pretty much dead.
I refuse to let that happen. It will not die.
Beautiful, powerful words. Charlie had just one wife. What we got to see across this weekend is that there were so many people around the world, like she said, who were deeply moved by Charlie Kirk throughout their lives.
Okay, so, and then she shows a few more clips. But this is day 3, and I can understand that she didn't want to mock Erika, but she clearly was, I mean, she made fun of her. Now she's going into a movie, a GoFundMe movie, whatever that fucking term was that she used, a Kickstarter movie that never happened. There were some people on that were hired for a movie that they never got paid for because there's no money. They're kickstarting it, right? A movie that, like, Erika Kirk was allegedly going to star in. I mean, a movie that had no money, no funding, no producing, no, nothing. It was just an idea. And that there were some people that had a loose association with Fort Huachuca. And that somehow Erika Kirk was an expert on Fort Huachuca because of that and had an intimate relationship with that. And even if that was true, that doesn't mean she was there at that day. And if she was there at that day, it doesn't mean that there was some plan being executed to execute Charlie Kirk, right? And so she has 0. You have a fucking not credible witness. But this speaks to who she is as a person, Candace Owens. Because it's one thing to realize Erika Kirk's full of shit and not say anything because you don't want to attack a grieving widow. And she couldn't really do that. Like, she couldn't come in after Erika right now. Day 3, right? She couldn't go after Erika for some period of time. But the rest of us could. The rest of us, could call Erika out for being fucking weird. She was being mocked already. And it would just get worse. She would get weirder, and the mocking would get more severe. And Candace Owens didn't say shit. And her audience wanted her to. Her audience was like, go after Erika. Like, why aren't you going after Erika? Like, nobody, Erika didn't have fans. And the whole grieving widow thing played so poorly. She was so badly done. It's one thing to not criticize her, but it's another thing to say how great it was. And I knew she knew it wasn't great. So she's a liar, right? And, her whole thing, a thing that Alex Jones praised, is that she'd have some receipts, like she had some text messages and things. And she would announce the text messages, and people said she didn't have shit. And then she'd come and go, ha, I do have something, right? And in the beginning, she did have text messages and things that were sent to her. And people at TPUSK were not happy about what was going on. And they knew that she was unhappy because she got kicked to the curb by Charlie and Erika and TPUSK. I mean, remember, she got fired from there. Charlie cut ties with her because of his association with Israel. but somehow she still was grieving, and she lost her dear friend, Charlie Kirk, with her crying and her bullshit. And, so if she's telling you how great Erika is here, and some months later she's going after Erika for having, a rumor about being at a fort that had no provable connection to Charlie Kirk's assassination, like she's, this is grasping at straws to try to cover up for the fact that you had an unreliable source and you are really deceiving your audience. That's what my videos about her are all about. You're deceiving your audience. And you were deceiving them back in then, right? Because wouldn't it be great if you had the freedom to do what so many of us can do, where we can just come out and tell the truth? And the reason we can do that, despite being smaller channels, despite any of these other things, is that we are, we're not friends with these people. We're not associated with them. We don't know Erika Kirk. These aren't people that we have relationships with. And so it took her a long time to finally get at Erika Kirk. And what she's doing is going after Fort Huachuca, not all the rest of this garbage that she pushed. And like I said originally, and said over and over again, if you're going to have a conspiracy to kill a dude like this, you have to get his wife. If you're going to come out with some bullshit thing in this age of the internet, you can't have his wife going rogue. You got to own his wife. His wife's got to be in on it. There's no other way to do it. So either the official story is true, and Erika Kirk is some great loving wife who just grieves really poorly, which I'm like, nobody's going to believe that shit. But if that's true, then that's one option. The other option is she's in on it, right? And are you going to be able to prove she's in on it? No. And is anybody going to, in the official capacity, going to prove that is there any mainstream media or any of the governmental agencies or any of the law enforcement going to prove Erika Kirk had anything to do with it? No. It's just that you're either going to know it or you're not. And those of us who know it, we know it, and that's it. That's all there is. There's no reason to involve Fort Huachuca or any of this other bullshit, only to string your audience along. But I realized when I was going through these videos, she's losing fucking views, bro. Now, being the #1 podcast of Candace Owens is everything, right? This is the Yo Snap. We were right about Fort Huachuca. 1.1 million views. That's 15 hours ago. But this only got 1.2 million views. This one, 1.3. And these are lots of views compared to, other channels. But 3 days ago, 1.6. 7 days ago, 2.2. 8 days ago, 1.8. And then some of these other ones got 3 million views, right? So this was Ben Shapiro 3 weeks ago. And then she streamed something 10 days ago, right? So this was, after she came back from vacation. And when she came back from vacation, she got 2.2 million views, and then it's gone down every day since. Because you know what? People have seen fucking the stuff on Mitch Snow. And she can say that she's, this whole thing was ridiculous. But she was going, she was getting regularly 2 million views, right? 2 million views, 2 million views, 2 million views, 2 million views, 2 million views. That one went up to 3 million views, 2 million views, 1.9 million views, 2 million, 2 million, 2 million. Her audience has been cut in half. Like she's, to where she is now at 1.3 or, she's lost 40% of her audience. So, but she can't go back on this. And she's a lying piece of shit because of what she said about Erika in the beginning. And again, you didn't have to go after her, but you didn't have to endorse her. She endorsed her. She showed multiple clips. And then she said, all Erika has to do is say stop and I'll stop. Erika did say stop, but now she said, well, I've changed my mind about that, right? And this whole thing, imploded. So, Candace Owens is, what I always say about these people is cheating her audience. I mean, that's what all these people are doing because they're not being legitimate. The one thing about being on the internet and doing what we do is you can be authentic and give your authentic opinion. And if there's something you can't talk about or you don't feel comfortable talking about, that's great. Like we all have that. Like there's certain things, certain people you maybe feel a little bit more sympathy for. You don't go in as hard on them or you don't want to cover them, whatever. That's fine. Like that's all, that's not lying. But when you say the opposite, when you promote somebody, when you know Trump's a piece of shit and you keep on promoting him because your audience isn't ready for you to turn on him or whatever number of things that happen, right? And she was shackled up, piece of shit. Charlie Kirk was a piece of shit. And they all are, connected. They're all in this story. They're all part of it, right? It's not like, she's not part of the club. Candace Owens is still part of the club. Whatever this club is, right? She's still, getting lots of, she's an influencer in this space. And she's still doing far better than TPUS Gay. But losing half your viewers over this Fort Huachuca thing is not good. And she's not, like, what is she going to go from here? Like, she's not going to come up with some solution, some bombshell thing. I mean, if she's going to a Kickstarter movie that never happened with Erika Kirk, a poster of Erika Kirk, Erika Franze, long before, it was, what is it, 2012 or 2013? She didn't meet Charlie till, when was that, 2020 or something like that? Or at least, that's their official story. That's, and yeah, it's nothing there. The movie had nothing really to do with Fort Huachuca, and it was a Kickstarter movie. Like, that's what you got? That's how you can back up Mitch Snow with a Kickstarter movie? So this is all fucked. And let's say Erika Kirk, for some strange reason, was in that area, coincidentally, or this is part of the kind of thing. That still doesn't prove anything. It's circumstantial evidence. It's not going to lead you anywhere closer to finding out what happened with Charlie Kirk, especially when you've gone down the train of Egyptian planes. All right, so I got a clip I want to show you. In my next video, they're going to be talking about how they are going to go after people who criticize Israel. And then I want to show you that clip of this woman who was, some right-wing person who was finally asking questions about Trump's fake assassination. So I'm going to start on that video now, but I'm going to publish this one. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely pointing for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.